Yeah, it looks like my OBS is having trouble, but it's reconnected now. It's reconnected
Yeah,
now. So
I hear you on the phone, but on my
I'll
screen here
turn some
it's off.
program. It might be the programs just messing up the.
Do you have 1,000 things open?
Well, I had to open Blender. That was the thing. So Blender, I think, is pretty resource heavy, and you know what? OBS is ultra resource heavy too. So it could just be that.
But if you have like a bunch of videos on pause in different windows, that'll be annoying too. Like
it looks
paused videos.
It? Okay.
Yeah, if you have like 10 windows with paused videos, that I know that fucks shit up.
I'll remember that. Thanks.
Yeah, because I feel like you're probably the type to have 10 videos paused.
Has anyone had like an out of body experience where you could actually, like, your consciousness felt like is over top of your body, you can actually see your body from above?
I haven't, but I know friends who have claimed that.
Yeah, that's a regional delocalization, right? So sleep serves a similar function to that.
Hello?
Yeah, hey, sorry, I'm having problems with my connection.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, Jen.
It's like maybe if you meditate and you enough times, you might be able to have an
No, I'm asking Jen if her model allows for that to be a normal thing.
Yeah, it predicts it. Yeah.
It predicts it? Okay.
Yeah.
And
predicted.
And what technology would it take? Do you surmise?
You're I'm having a hard time hearing you. So are you far away from your internet connection? Because you keep dropping out.
No.
I can hear him fine.
Okay. Sorry, maybe it's just my connection. But yeah. What were you saying?
I was going to say, so your theory predicts that. Would it require to make that happen? Like to
I just don't think it's a good idea.
Well, I know you don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea either, but like what type of technology would it be? Is it like a hard like electric technology, or would it be more of a like sort of oming meditation kind of thing? You know?
I don't even know that I don't even know it's possible, first of all, to do what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know how much luck people have had trying to do this either, and I know it's been tried. I haven't tried it myself because I consider it,
Yeah, but I mean, just from a thought experiment point of view, like, would it be like something that I mean, if it's something that is eventually possible, there's going to be people trying to do it, right? So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's already been started. They've already tried to do it, but I don't know how far they're getting. And so
could your theory help them?
Maybe.
Fuck. Oh no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a reason why people don't do these things, and it's because it's bad karma. So why would you do something that I can prove is bad karma?
Right? I mean, I guess if you say you can prove it, that's proof enough.
Well, people may not believe me, but it's like, why would I lie about this? Like, I'm concerned about protection, but there are people out there who have bad intentions. So you have to sort of negotiate between not wanting bad consequences for your bad intentions being amplified in the universe, and also you don't want to be harmed by bad intentions. So it's about personal strength and building up your own personal faculties and personal resistance training. It really doesn't have much to do with the psychic milieu in which you exist, which would be later used to mediate these hypothetical phase transitions in consciousness where people can do remote viewing. I really have high doubts to the extent to which that's even possible in the first place.
Well, that's the only reason I jumped to that was because, I mean, if we're talking about like out-of-body experiences and that your theory predicts that, like the next logical step from a like point of view would be like, okay, can you do remote viewing then? You know, like, because that would be the, I guess, the scientific lust after
that would be an idiotic, materialistic, juvenile, insistent goalpost shifting criterion, and it would just be like, if I could do that, would you really want me to?
No, but I'm just saying that like other humans might.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't even know what they're fucking asking for. They're like, oh, it's like, tell me what number I'm thinking of. It's like let's say hypothetically I get it right. Do you want that to happen? No, you don't.
No.
You don't want that to be possible.
No. Well, I'm just that's why I'm asking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't want it to be possible. I'm not willing to do that scientific experiment to find out if it's possible. That's what I'm saying. That would be an ethical violation to even undertake an experiment like that.
Does your model predict that you can communicate with like higher beings, like angels or possibly aliens or other creatures?
There's nothing
of another dimension.
Well, there are no other dimensions in my model. My model has 14 dimensions, and that's it. That's the whole universe.
14 dimensions, and
Yeah.
But like say like we're on third dimension. So could I?
No, we're not on the third.
With...
No. We're on. I think maybe the fifth. In the 14 dimensions, we're on the. I think it's the fifth one. Don't quote me on that.
What are the 14 dimensions in your model? Because that's the thing too. Like I feel like intuitively, I think there's like
I will
5 or
explain
7.
it to you. How does that sound? Because it's actually a really fun explanation. Okay, so are you ready?
Perfect. Go.
Okay, so what's the smallest observable thing in the universe?
Planck?
That's not a thing. That's a guy's last name.
Oh, smallest observable thing?
Yeah.
Like to the human eye?
No, in general.
Oh.
Smallest observable thing in general. I'm gonna draw a blank right now.
I'll just shoot the.
Okay, proton.
Okay,
there you
proton.
go.
I was gonna say atom. Okay.
Well, you would have been close. So, can you guys think of anything smaller than a proton?
My dick. No kidding.
Wow, talk about a fucking self-own. Where did that come from?
Okay, sorry. So continue with the explanation.
Okay, so my dick, proton is the smallest thing. Okay, smallest observable thing. Smallest observable distance, more accurately. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. So the proton's the smallest observable distance, and then we want to go to the other end. What's the largest observable distance?
I guess to the edge of the known observable universe from us? Or from end to end, I guess?
It's the largest interstellar distance.
Oh,
so if you imagine all the stars, right? We can only we measure a finite number of stars.
Is it really lid? That's amazing. So the top is the lid? That's hilarious. Largest interstellar distance? It's the lid.
Yeah, so you start with the largest interstellar distance, and then you imagine you build a cube with those lengths, and that should inscribe the entire totality, right?
Yep.
Because by definition, you've selected it so that it's equivalent to the largest metric. Okay, so back to why the measurement limit predicts a 14-dimensional universe. Okay, so we've got two things now. We've got the smallest thing in the universe is the proton. Smallest observable distance is the proton. Largest observable distance is the largest interstellar distance. And the question is, how many orders of magnitude are there between those sizes? Okay, and the answer is 42. Okay. I calculated. You can go check it yourself. Feel free. It's fun. It's a fun experiment. But go ahead. You'll see it comes out to 42. Okay, so what you have to do is divide. You have to check. It's exponential, right? It's a logarithmic.
Wasn't it also 42 in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the...
I know. Anyway. It's a funny thing. I don't know if it's a coincidence or what, but whatever. It's from the thing, the dolphins one.
Yeah, awesome.
So anyway, this is what you have to do. The question you have to answer is, how many times do I have to measure the protonic diameter before I get to this largest interstellar diameter? So the answer is 10 to the 42 times. Okay? So what we're looking at now with 42 is those are linear orders, okay? But we don't live in a universe that actually defines linear orders. Our universe only defines 3 + 1, the measurement limit, meaning that the space-like dimensions always occur in threes. So we have to take 42 and divide it by 3. That's where 14 comes in. 42 divided by 3 is 14. This gives you 14 dimensions, and each of them is 3 + 1 dimensional. That's what you have to remember. So you're looking at, from the periodic table all the way up to the universe, those are your 14 dimensions, and they're all mediated by their essential, you're on the order of a meter, right? So you would be, I think it's I want to say fifth, but basically I'd have to go back and actually check it. Like if you start from the periodic table, how many thousands of volumes do you have to go up before you get to the level on which we exist? I think it's 5. I think it's just 5 times, but I have to double check.
I'll just take your word for that for now. Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm right. Don't take my word for it.
Well, I mean, for this
not gonna do the
conversation's sake,
calculation
it's
right now.
fine. Yeah.
I'm not going to do the
recording
calculation
anything,
right now,
so-
but the point is that what John was saying is that we live in 3 dimensions. Yes, John, we do experience 3 space-like dimensions, but we live on an order of magnitude relative to the absolute size of the universe. And when I say 14-dimensional universe, that's what I'm referring to, not the 3 + 1 dimensions on our scale, because that's all there is, right? 3 + 1 on our scale, that's all there is. But that,
What about counterspatial symmetrical dimensions?
well, counterspatial is a non-existent thing. There's no such thing as counter space. There's ether, but there's no.
Yeah, well, yeah, like exactly, like where the electric charge, comes from and goes to.
Well, ether is the volume that mass takes up.
Ether is the volume
That mass
that
takes
mass
up.
takes up. Okay, fair enough. That makes
So
sense. That's
when-
easy to
when-
visualize.
What you want to do to visualize it is think about when our solar system was created, and that space inside our solar system did not exist before 4.5 billion years ago, or however long ago it was. So I'm just about to display an image here.
Okay, let me go back into the
Which is
other room
really
there. Setup is
So-
weird.
I do diagrams like this sometimes. So this is a
Oh wait, I don't have
causal
you on the
diagram.
screen anymore. I can't see you anymore. Hang on, let me see. How do I put this on speakerphone? I don't know how to. Anyway, I don't know what to do. I can't see anything. So, actually, hold up. Let me see if I want it to connect. Let me just go back to YouTube. Hang on.
Anyway, this is a causal diagram. So on the left-hand side, we have the cause configuration, and on the right, we have the effect configuration. So it's just a very simple binomial nomenclature. All you got to do is remember that, the cause goes to effect, and then the effect becomes the cause for a later effect, right? So it's the dominoes. Okay,
Hold
so
on a second. My
universe
Okay.
is
Hang on.
a bunch of fucking
Okay.
dominoes. John, are you
Okay.
following this at all, or are you? Hello?
Sorry, I just can't see the chart, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'm taking notes.
Oh, well, that's good. It's always good to take notes because it really reaffirms memory. When I went to university, I took notes in almost every class.
Okay, I can
Although,
see. I can see
admittedly,
this
I slept
diagram
through
now.
biology. That's
Mhm.
not really science.
All right, I'm looking at your diagram now.
Cool. So it's a causal diagram. You've got the you got the cause on the left, the effect on the right. So the idea is that if you look at the top in the pink section, that's a hyperdense region. So that's where there's so many fermions, so many neutrons that they just can't fit anymore because of the Pauli exclusion principle. And so it basically squirts it out like an egg, or coombs it out, or ejaculates it, or however you want to put it. That's actually why, I don't know if you can see this right now.
No FAP. Yeah.
Can you guys see this picture right now? Because I made this as a joke, and I thought that maybe 4 people might actually find it funny. But can you see this one now?
Which one?
It's the Coomer universe.
Oh, fuck's sakes. with the
So what
lovely
this is
lovely
called
drawing.
This is called anthropomorphism. So I don't usually do the anthropomorphisms, but I couldn't resist. So what do you guys think? I don't want to say it's my first one, but I haven't done
gorgeous.
that.
just breathtaking.
But yeah, back to the actual important diagram. Sorry about the digression. But yeah, that you have to have something to help with your memory. So these silly little diagrams, they can help, but you got to always remember, what's reality, and our capacity to describe reality is one thing, and reality, it's always a little bit beyond what we can describe because we're restrained to the confines of our own consciousness. No way to break that bond. So back to the diagram, what we notice is that on the left, notice how it's a little shorter. So see how it gets a little bit longer here? So once the dark matter coombs out the planets and suns, it's depleted. And this is actually what creates new space. So a new space-time event, a new localization of this original primordial space-time event becomes localized. And that's where time starts to register in the same instant that space starts to register. So the idea is that that area, that volume between the planets did not exist before the planets existed. The instantiation of the planets and the area was simultaneous. And it's the same with consciousness and matter. Their instantiation is simultaneous. So it's very hard to do causality when you have spontaneous instantiation. And that's what we're dealing with matter and consciousness. There is no first mover. Matter and consciousness are simultaneous.
Okay.
That's consciousness that comes out of a brain, though.
That's primordial, generalized, universal consciousness, not we cannot use the biological definition of consciousness.
Yeah, but so this is pre-brain consciousness then.
This is the non-dual definition of consciousness, where you define consciousness as waveform, the capacity to undergo waveform reduction, because observation is waveform reduction in quantum mechanics. And so since everything is waveforms, and what the waveforms do is undergo reduction, therefore everything is essentially conscious, because consciousness is waveform reduction. And everything is waveform reducing. I don't know if that logic works, but that's the non-dual definition of consciousness. It doesn't really work in biology because obviously rocks aren't conscious. But by this definition, consciousness arose at the same time. Now, if you want to take the biological definition of consciousness, well, consciousness arose way later than the universe did. Infinity time later, because the universe is infinity old.
Or infinity plus 1 times later.
Well, either way. But yeah, it's but that's the basic idea. But in both cases, the material instantiation of the consciousness is simultaneous. Like if you're talking about where life started, well, where did life start? It was
so where do you see the world go? Where does the world go? Just entropy? Just everything heat, death, universe? That's it?
Well, the microstates just keep filling. So they keep filling and filling and filling, and people go through cycles. There's civilizational.
But doesn't the universe go through cycles too?
The universe goes through cycles, but those are on a different order of magnitude. So the order of magnitude,
of course. Yeah.
It's a very large order of magnitude. It's like 4 billion years. It's like that number has no relevance when you're having a human lifetime.
I only mean in pertaining like to relating to like the heat death scenario. So like heat death even isn't the end. It's just
not
part
real
of a cycle.
Yeah, that's not real either.
Yeah,
heat death, I don't think heat death could be real. The only way heat death could be real is if the universe is finite and the mass somehow dissipates enough that it's impossible for it to collapse back under gravity, because it's just like floating out to never land forever. That could theoretically die, but it appears the universe has too much matter really for that to happen, because you have opposing forces. You have, what's the force of attraction?
I don't know.
You should know this, guys.
What's the force of love?
What? Why are you not floating? Why are you not floating off the planet right now? Is it because the planet loves you? There you go.
Well, I would say yes.
It's love, man.
I was gonna say magnetism, but yeah, gravity. Yeah.
Yeah, gravity. Sure.
Magnetism is a secondary effect of gravity.
Right. Okay. Now I have a question. So, these cycles, do they take into consideration like the planet alignment? Because I know like some astrologers, they take in, like they can predict some sort of cycle, like the age of Aquarius or certain other ages.
There's always been people who are interested in astrology, like Bitcoin is basically the newest version of astrology. So.
Well, wasn't it just? It's just betting. No, it's just betting and statistics. No, isn't it just like any other betting and statistics thing?
Trying to predict future movements for personal benefit. I mean, the point is that this has been a human pastime since antiquity, and you want to call it cryptocurrency. I'm just going to say, astrology. It's the same thing. It's always been. So obviously, it's not. You're talking about a scientific basis, right? So. The question is, how does science tell us what the alignment of planets is going to be? And the answer is quantum thermodynamics. I don't really know what you're asking. Like, are you saying that we can look at the stars and predict what's going to happen on the planet? Because
like you guys were mentioning about like cycles of civilizations and some people use like planet alignments to predict like civilizational cycles or a certain season this a civilization might be, or even a person, like how they're born. So if they're born on this day at this altitude, they have different they're going through different cosmic realities as opposed to someone who was born on a different month, like the Aries, the Gemini. Like they go through different cycles of the universe. So I was just wondering, like, if you can predict, like, at a time and place, knowing the alignment of the planets on which season the individual consciousness is going through with your model, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. So since I understand that man's love of astrology is eternal, and Peter, I don't know if you can like mute or whatever because you're breathing pretty heavy into the mic.
Oh, sorry, I'm smoking. I'll put it. Yeah, sorry.
So given, John, that I myself am a bit of a purist, perhaps you've noticed, I do not trifle with such pursuits, such plebeian pursuits as this gambling. But I understand that the plebs are going to pleb, right, John? And then I wouldn't hold that against you. So yeah, I did come up with I suppose you could call it pseudo-scientific way of doing a personality and life projection chart based on, I call it lunology. So it would just basically be based on the moon, because the moon is the thing you can scientifically prove affects people, right? Because it's so close. Okay. So the moon, like if you talk to somebody who works like a cop or like, let's say a nurse or something along those lines, who's dealing with the public, okay, they'll all agree about the moon thing. So it's really only ivory tower people who don't agree about the moon thing. But if you're going to go in the direction of science, what?
What's the moon thing?
Well, people having markedly different behavior around a full moon, for instance. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but people, I mean, I've even seen it on the show. Like, sometimes the show is just fucking just craze balls, and I'm just sitting there like, why? And then I look up the moon, and it's like, oh, okay.
So what is that?
I think what happens is that the moon, did you know that the moon has a variance of about 10% with regards to its radius throughout a cycle?
I've heard that.
Well, you sound really far away now. I can barely hear you.
I have the speaker on again because I'm smoking, so I didn't want to be too loud on the mic. So
are you guys aware of this, that the moon fluctuates? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? It goes from being one distance, like
a full moon, a half moon.
No, that's the luminosity.
Gets closer and further.
I'm talking about its distance to the planet, the apogee.
Yeah.
Okay, so that varies within a 10% amount of the total. Okay, so a 10% variation within a month. And with what the moon does is exerts gravity on us, but it's not a straight up gravity. It's a spinning gravity because there's always motion between the two planets. Okay, so this is imposing a torsion field. Okay, the net effect of the torsion field is a mild lifting of the total energetic body. Okay, so your subjective consciousness is a subset of your total consciousness, which is the thing animating your whole body. So that thing can be affected by torsion current because it is an electromagnetic entity. And just like anyone who's ever worked with something that required an electromagnet or a battery, you can understand that there's effects from torsion fields on electromagnetics. And that's what the gravity is doing, is it's essentially a spinning ball, and its net effect is attraction because gravity is attraction. So the dominant gravity field is always Earth, right? Obviously. But we have a varying gravity field from the moon.
But the symptoms of full moon shit is all over the map. Like
exactly.
People get horny.
I don't think anybody.
I mean, it makes sense. It affects the tides. And it should also affect human behavior. Yeah.
And that's one thing that's funny about JF is I was like, well, the tides are the reason we have life, because the flushing it around, the perpetual toilet of the planet is what allows for it to go through so many variations that life is able to accumulate. Like without all like you can't get a frappe without turning the blender on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really like
Makes
that
sense.
metaphor. I feel really inspired right now. These are really great questions. I appreciate that. So it's like, it's clear, but it's not clear exactly how. But I think when I explain the model, it's pretty clear. Like the moon is the reason why we have an atmosphere, because the action of the moon is to basically it turns the escaping, because the water molecules, they want to boil off, and the moon turns them around. So you think of it as a perpetual boiling off. So it's going straight up. If there was no moon, it would just boil off to the edge of the universe, because there'd be nothing to slow it down, because there's nothing in space, or not much, right? Not much, but there's dark matter.
Wouldn't the moon not be able to trap everything? So wouldn't we see stuff escaping more?
That's a crazy thing. The crazy thing is that the moon, even though it's only in one location, projects a simultaneous three-dimensional field. And the evidence of this is that the moon, like if you look at the way
No, I buy that. I'm just talking about shouldn't there be a leakage point anywhere?
There might be none. But there isn't, because it creates a 3D standing field. It's called the Van Allen belt, I think.
The Van Allen radiation belt there, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it may not be possible to leave the atmosphere for that reason, because it's possible.
That's the one that made Buzz Aldrin crazy, right? Put his brain through that, and then he came back and he was all weird.
Was his hair different? That's the dead giveaway. If his hair is now standing on end at all times,
well, he's got quite the look in his eye.
Like based on what I know, I would just say, like, just let go of the whole space travel LARP, because space travel's not going to fucking happen, and it's a LARP to think that it will. And why?
I think it's just stupid.
Hey,
yeah.
Elon Musk.
Don't we build a giant ship with a glass bottom and a giant sail? Wouldn't that be better to do than to try to go to Mars, which is just going to kill us in about 10 seconds?
The fact that we haven't really explored the oceans to a really curious level is like, okay, Mars seems a little bit like we're skipping some steps, no?
Well, I heard
the moon too, right?
I heard that you can go at the speed of light by using like a laser technology. Like the Elon Musk was talking about, they use like laser technology to like shoot a space up for the speed of light, so they can make it to Mars and then they can colonize it. Or
John, did you watch my show? John, did you watch my show last week?
A little bit of it.
Did you see my Elon Musk tweet?
No, I didn't.
Or not tweet, sorry, meme.
No, I didn't.
I'm displaying it again for everyone's benefit. I see. Hi again, Marshall. If you want to join and say hi, you're more than welcome to. Anyone else who wants to join can too. I don't want people to be fucking scared to come on the show. Okay, so I want to make it clear that if you're respectful, I'll be nice. Okay, except Conops, because I have an issue with Conops, because he hadn't shown me no respect.
Master Baiters kind of sounds like Conops right now. I'm just getting a little bit of
Master Beater, son.
Oh, sorry, Master Beater.
He does not sound anything like fucking Conops. He sounds like somebody that I talked to a couple months ago on Facebook, but I don't know if it's him.
Okay.
I didn't talk to you on Facebook for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
All right.
It was another cook.
Yeah. Fair enough. There's a lot of cooks named Chris, actually. It's true.
I guess I'm accumulating cooks now. For a while, it was like art musicians.
Gravity, yeah?
Yeah, so gravity is the collapse force, and uncertainty is the expanse force, aka Pauli exclusion principle, aka there's a granularity to space. There's a granularity to space that is a law that everything else centers around. But yeah, I mean, fuck space, no offense, but like, I'm just happy to look at the stars at night.
Yeah, then I don't want them to pollute space. I feel like they've polluted it enough. Like, my bro has a cottage up in the country. You're gonna go up there, and it's like really remote, and you'll see satellites, dude. It's like, cool, but like at the same time, like I want to just look at the universe sometimes. You know, I want to look up into space and see space.
I want to be on Trump's Space Force. It's my ambition in life. My ultimate ambition. Build a Space Force. But I don't know if it'll happen this lifetime.
Well, I'm in Montreal. I ain't doing that.
I just don't think we can go to space because of like entropy, you know. Entropy is a bit.
I think
Entropy
it's also
is
pointless.
a huge bitch. And I
more
think it's
pointless than
pointless too.
anything.
It's
Like,
not
I mean, if we're
pointless to
talking
build a
about
glass bottom
colonizing
boat.
Mars, how come we can't fix the environment here? We can start from scratch somewhere, but we can't fix this? Bullshit, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, let's
I'm really
go to
glad.
the sun. Let's terraform the sun. Like, what's another next dumb idea?
I heard there's a what is it? The solar minimum. So based upon like the solar flares of the sun, you're gonna have harsher winters and harsher growing seasons.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much for climate change, for global warming.
No, that's the real driver of it. Really, that's what I've heard too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Winter's coming,
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah, and you notice they're not really. Well, I don't know. They're still doing like they're still talking about like carbon tax, but I mean it's all a scam at this point, you know.
It's so retarded. Anyone who thinks that if you give the government more money to waste, they're gonna save the world, like, you have to be retarded. You're a retarded person. Give the people who are famous for wasting money more money, and they'll fix everything. Okay.
It's the what is it?
Well, there's a lot of people
Battered
wearing
wife syndrome. It's when your identity starts to revolve around an abusive master. That's when you're in trouble. That's when you call them master beater.
Yeah, hey. Because I make the best beats.
I mean, these people are wearing masks.
You know what
for a
I thought
virus
you
that
were?
has-
I thought you were like somebody who beats masters, who like finds someone who calls himself a master, and you're like, hey, I challenge you to mastership.
Fuck, that's what I am now.
And then
That's what I'm doing
they're
now.
like,
Master
shit, I guess
beater.
I have to cede the title.
I'm
And you're
the
like,
king
that's right,
slayer."
I'm the master beater. I'm the king slayer.
Exactly. I'm like Buffy.
That's what I thought. I'm like, oh, who the fuck is this fucking troll now? Great, this is gonna suck.
I know, it's a very troll name, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Oh no, I like it. It's good. The context really cleared it up, so it's all good now.
Perfect.
But yeah, it's just like it's becoming comical. Like I was looking up, you know, they've been saying to go to Mars. They've been planning to go to Mars since the 50s. The 50s.
All the Mars talk without talking about the moon just pisses me off now. It's like, okay, so why don't you go to the moon then? It's easier, no? Why isn't it easier? What do you mean you don't have the technology for that?
They destroy the plants.
That doesn't make sense. But,
They
okay, so
destroy
take
the
the Mars
plants
plan. Take the Mars plan then.
That's
and
fucking
then
totally logical.
subtract some fuel from your Mars plan and then go back to the moon. Stupid, right? You know?
And then it's like, on top of that, you have this additional like clown worldification. It's just like that's the thing with clown world.
Oh.
It's like there's no such thing as a bottom in clown world. There's always a trap door that opens and sends you into a further pit of despair, right? So that's why I made this Elon meme. It's like your company is like totally overvalued. Your tech is pretty shaky. You know, your idea is stupid. Terraforming Mars is stupid.
Though.
And you're fucking shit posting. You're fucking shit posting about Dogecoin. It's like
he's a shit poster. That's all I think Elon Musk is the world's biggest shit poster. That's what he is. The car in space was a shit post. Everything he's talking about, he's smoking a joint on Joe Rogan. Everything he does is a shit post. He's a shit poster. That's what he is. Mars
who's more pathetic, the Bitcoin believers or the Mars believers? Who's more pathetic?
I think they're a lot of the same people.
Hey, Bitcoin's gonna go to $1 million.
That doesn't mean it's not. That doesn't mean it's a good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
I'll tell you, even if it went to $10 million, I'm going to be more of a curmudgeon than Peter Schiff on this because I'm never going to support.
But Mars is one of those weird things, though, where there's people who I think otherwise agree with me on lots of normal shit, And then they're like, "No, man, but Mars is super important for science." I'm like, "But how? You're
It's
just wrapped up
attachments,
in a."
man. It's fucking attachments. This is like the perfect segue.
It is exactly.
become a
It's the
fucking
perfect
business.
example of
Like,
of propagandizing
yeah.
people from being a kid. You know, like you're a little kid, you watch space shows and the nature of things with David Suzuki, and then all of a sudden you like really think Mars is a really positive, productive goal. It's like the antithesis of productivity. It's like, let's go to Mars. Okay.
Oh, you understand what it is, though. I'm sure you can hypothesize as to why people
yeah.
are attached to that. Well, what's the answer?
Well, because it's a thing to look at instead of the other stuff. Look
It's a
at
big
this.
money grab.
Yeah, it's a money grab. It's also
escapism.
just a big distraction. It's like the Super
Same
Bowl
thing with the
for...
solar panels too.
Yeah. Oh God.
Solar
Solar
panels are
panels.
not a distraction. Solar panels actually work. I have a demonstrated proof of concept. You could install solar panels.
I'm not saying they don't work. I'm just
Oh, yeah,
saying
It's
you
not
can
a
install them, but
giant conspiracy,
it's
because
like-
that'd be quite the
No, but-
conspiracy.
I'm not saying
No,
they
but the
don't
only
work.
conspiracy about panels is that they're not green. They're just not green. Making them is not green. Mining the rare
Yeah.
earth minerals for them is not green. The
Mhm.
plastics isn't green. All the stuff, nothing is green about them. And then the output versus the coal and stuff it takes to manufacture them and transport them and the components, it's just not green at all, and it's not as efficient. So there you go. But it sounds cool to like a little kid who like watches David Suzuki, like, yeah, it's like just green, right? Blurp, blurp, blurp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what's they don't have any motivation to improve things. So like the first thing would be to like rank the things in order of what's the most terrible to the least, right? But their knowledge isn't good enough to do that, right? So it's like, what's the risk? The risk is the ocean dying because of carbonification, carbonic acid, because of a dissolution of carbon into the ocean. But how do we know when that happens? And couple that with the fact that the carbon thing came after the change in temperature historically. You know how they say that the
the carbon thing is just an arbitrary thing they chose that they can now measure that are and now saying that this is our fault, and it's very guessworky. Like they can't prove anything, and they keep moving the goalposts and changing the data, so they're not saying anything.
Well,
they're not even
it's part of the
scientific
dictatorship cabal, especially with how they're measuring CV-19, opposed like when it comes to like PCR tests and how deadly it is, or how they change the stats. Same thing with like global warming. They say, well, 97% of scientists agree that carbon is the main cause of global warming.
These global organizations, like whatever UN health organization that measures stuff and has scientists, and the World Health Organization, I looked into like some of the first things they did as organizations in their inception, and largely both of them were to define and dictate to other smaller organizations around the world the nomenclature of stuff, like the coding of the syntax of all the language and COVID of the stuff we're using now. So it's almost like they could have embedded in the syntax a code that this means go. This means everyone turn the keys. You know what I mean? So once everyone sees COVID-19, then the protocols change. You know, so it's like it was a hack job, but like hacking of paperwork, you know, decades ago. So
yeah,
that's what it seems like. Because otherwise, these organizations around the world that are otherwise very stupid and bad at their jobs, bad at doing anything, bad at communicating with one another, all of a sudden are now all on the same page. It seems like a starter pistol of some sort must have been fired at some point by someone, and the idea that a certain starter pistol would be used, and this is what the sound would be, you know, could have been what they were putting into the inception of these organizations. Like, oh yeah, so now we know that this is a virus, and we're going to classify this as this and these as those, and then blah 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 blah. All of a sudden, they create a plan that's just buried in the details, buried in code, you know, pre-computer, just in there. But that's what looks like happening. I mean,
yeah. I have an experiment. I don't know, you guys, maybe if you don't have to do it, but like call your local representatives and ask them about PCR cycles and see if anyone knows what the hell you're talking about.
No one knows.
Like I tried calling like 5 people. Like no one knows what PCR cycles are to measure the.
You're in Canada
Yeah.
too, man? No, where are you?
In Canada.
You're in Canada? Okay, I'm in Montreal. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no one knows because everyone still just watches CBC for some reason and they don't talk about anything. But yeah, a lot of the places are cycling it up like past 45 and shit.
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
insane.
Yeah, it's like like double and triple and 5 times the amount acceptable.
Yeah. It's just like when you ask them, like they'll give you information, like a little information, but they still won't give you an answer of a number. Like I had one lady say, "Oh, well, if someone's sick, like if someone was sick 3 months ago and they tested positive, what we get to do after a couple of days, we get them to retest again to make sure it's not a false positive." That's all the really answer I got. And then I got like one lady, she was like literally reading from a script. She said, "Well, there's a possibility that could be false negatives, so we get people to test again." Then I asked her, "Oh, could there be false positives?" And she's just like, "Oh no, I'm only supposed to say false negatives." I'm like,
Well,
oh,
that was a
okay.
slip. She probably wasn't supposed to say.
Ah, shit! I should have recorded the phone
part
call.
quiet and the excited part loud. Yeah. Oh, I'm only supposed to. I mean, no, I don't know. Fuck,
Whoops.
you broke a robot, dude.
Yeah, breaking robots everywhere.
Yeah.
Montreal, like that's pretty rough over there too. There's a lot of restrictions there.
Yeah, curfew 8 p.m.
Shit.
Yeah.
We have Supra Librix who joined us on the show. I don't know if your AV is working, but you seem to have been able to join the link. Do you have any audio?
Yeah,
you're fine.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Good. Hi, Jan. Nice to hear you again there.
I'm sorry I had to block you on Facebook. I just I don't like being tagged and stuff. You know, I cannot stand tags. It's just like I can't promote your theory because it's just like it's not scientific, and I don't even agree with what you're doing on principle. You know, but it's nothing personal. How's that going?
I get it. I get it. No hard feelings at all. Nothing but love on this side here, Jen. It was very, very entertaining talking to you. I re-listened to a couple of our little podcasts there, and on my whole Facebook journey, you were the most entertaining. I really enjoyed talking to you. So, anyway,
I try to be entertaining.
Yes, and you succeed. I just wanted to drop in there. Pardon the interruption in the conversation. You guys got interesting stuff there. I don't mean to step on toes here.
It's
just
okay.
wanted to say hi.
It's a friend stream. It's a chill out stream. It's there's no bad feelings. You know, you are not as offensive to me as John was, and he's even on this stream. So
I'm really offensive. Yeah.
Well, it's going very well, actually. I guess when we were talking, I've had this problem because I knew I had something unique here for quite a while, and it's just been so hard to get it through because it's fake math and it's it's just nothing really there until you realize, oh, it is something there. I think I can put it in words now that make more sense. What everyone is trying to do in different ways is trying to extract how you feel about something in various ways. You have the thumbs up, you have the 5 stars on Amazon, you get the like button, you get the emoticons. These are all ways to translate emotion into a standardized format that people understand. A smiley face, everybody gets that, frowny face, things like that. So what mine does, it takes emotional valence of words, video, whatever, the emotional valence of any kind of input, and maps it to a standardized format. And there's almost nothing you can use that everybody will agree on. But you can agree that the wavelength of red is something and the wavelength of violet is something else. And that's all you can see is between those two wavelengths, without technological help. So it's the mapping of emotional valence to a standardized format, and that is red to violet. Green being neutral, red being the worst, violet being the best. And that's the only axiom of the whole theory is, can we agree that red means worst, violet means best, and green means neutral? Okay, now you run from there.
We can't agree. Here's where we can't agree. Here's where we don't agree. That the individual's opinion on whether something is good for society is in any way conducive to said societal improvement.
Right. Well, okay. Now that's that's the argument, but you need something that you can agree on to measure how much you like something, and
And you have to go by
you,
your subjective opinions. And I'm not saying you
exactly. Yeah.
derive metrics, but you cannot then turn around and infer something by somebody's subjectivization of some global effect, whatever the hell that means. It's an undefined thing that is inconceivable.
Well, now it's definable as long as everybody says, okay, yeah, this is the new metric. Sure. Yeah, I really like this. I don't like this. Now, what are
Oh,
you going to
that's a
put for
good
your color?
idea. Democracy. That's a good idea.
Well, what you find is you'll find a distribution pattern of emotional response to a
I'll
given
find
input.
people
Hey,
who can be convinced to believe whatever the hell the media wants.
yeah, right, exactly. That's true. Now, what you end up seeing is the distribution patterns of belief. You find out what people believe is true and what they believe is false by just looking at the distribution patterns that are generated by this. So you see these waveforms of popular opinion, and you see the enthusiasm and in either direction, positive or negative. So you'll see a peak so you'll see the extreme thought of positive or negative. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I love that. And you'll see these distribution patterns of what people say. Hey, what do you think about UBI? Well, you'll see a dramatic split there. People that hate it, people that love it, and a lot of people, hey, I don't know, or I don't care. So that's what you see. It shows you truth in a way that is standardized. That's all. And
It makes
truth being
people put whatever they think will get them a higher credit score.
well, yeah, that too. That too. But I'm just saying
So
for
you are
generalized
proposing a social credit score, and I'm saying that's not a good idea.
well, you can't avoid it. You already have that. You got the TRW, the FICO score. You've got your credit score. You know, those things already exist.
Oh,
It's
why
just
not just add on top of that a level of how people feel about me?
well,
How could it
but
go
that's what
wrong?
it already is wrong though. Look at the way look what you're talking about. You're talking about COVID, probably the most serious hysteria we've ever seen in the world history. I mean, it
How
has to
the
be
hell
because
would
we
you
have
know that?
well, it can't be anything but that. With an internet, you have the ability to terrify the whole world instantaneously. Before it was localized, you know,
But it
Black
wasn't
Plague.
terrifying.
People in China didn't hear about the Black Plague, right? So now all of a sudden, not only can you get the Black Plague in Europe, you can take that right to China in you know, a plane's flight, a couple hours, you can get the Black Plague anywhere, and that's what we
Woohoo!
got. That's what we got going, right? Except it's not the Black Plague; it's something else, and who knows? You know, how serious is it? I don't know. It's as serious as you think it is. That's how serious it is. So you'll find
Before the
these.
Black Plague, it was the Black Swan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the blacks. Yeah, we get the black COVID right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think this isn't a black swan. I forget who said it, but someone said this is a pink flamingo, not a black swan.
that's hilarious because you know what I talk about that with my I don't know if any of you it sounds like you haven't seen any of my stuff here, but what I ended up doing was I created a mathematics of thought, just my own kind of thing, just trying to figure out why the world has gone totally crazy. And so what I refer to this thing as the plastic flamingo black swan event. My own theory. Anybody could have done this at any time in history. Hey, map emotional valence to the spectrum. They just never thought of it. I happen to do it. So once you have that, that's that missing link for AI to think like a human. It's a way to standardize any kind of thought, show it in a physical format. Physical being, you know, a picture, and from there you determine what is true. Then also another now what you believe is true could be completely contrary to what everyone else believes is true. That happens all the time. But you see where you are on the slopes of what people believe is true. So you've got along with that you have a gray scale. So you make everything a continuum. A continuum, subjective a continuum is your opinion. Everything else is objective. Everything else is physics. You know, you can measure everything against entropy except your opinion. Your opinion is what it is.
Well, you can measure
Everything else
your
can be
opinion
measured.
against entropy too.
Well, yeah, actually, in real terms, right? As far as the efficiency of your brain, how it operates, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So beautiful. So you'd want people to be in the most efficient state, which would be, you know, your Zen hyper awareness, and you know, what you are for the last 30 years, Jen.
Well, you know, I still went through teenagerhood. I wasn't always a scintillating example of perfected film.
But now you are. So you're the ultra. And guys, I don't know if
Am I everything you'd ever hoped? Did I make your dreams come true?
I just want to drop in, Jen. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm actually getting to the point now where I've found people who have all these. Everyone's thought about this stuff, and I just happen to have that little missing link that makes these things come together and work. You want to change the monetary system, you can't do it by force. The only option you have against billionaires, trillionaires, all this money is you have to change the minds of the people that actually operate in that sphere. And how are you going to do that? You can't tax them. You need a global agreement of what to tax and how to tax it. And how are you going to do that? You get the UN, you get the IMF. Is that how you're going to do that? Not going to happen. So you actually have to change the way people think that have that money. So yeah, that's laughable, right?
It's laughable to think you'd do social engineering on people who are arguably more expert at social engineering than you could ever hope.
That's right. That's right. It's laughable. So that's why I call this the plastic flamingo black swan event, because I'm creating that system.
It's like a David and Goliath thing. It's like you guys are experts on social programming, but I'm going to come in with my toy trinket social programming set.
That's it. That's it. You know what it is?
And I'm going to deconstruct your whole paradigm, and then you'll be eating
That's it.
my hand.
That's it. That's it. So, I'm doing that whole thing on Twitter. So if you want to watch on Twitter, I've already started to get to the right minds with AI, with well, like I said, there's all these people that thought about these systems. Well, we need this kind of UBI, we need this kind of thing, this kind of thing. And mine inverts that and says, no, what you do, you take the existing system, make it more efficient, discover where the inefficiencies are. The root of it is,
I know where the inefficiencies are.
Name it.
Government.
Exactly. But you can't say that to government because they're going to tell you you're inefficient. Why don't you give us more money?
We're the one giving the money, so in the end, we should be the one saying, okay, well, we're not going to give you money then. How about that?
Yeah, good luck, right? And they show up with a gun at your door. So you're in this paradox where you've got no power, they've got nukes, they've got trillions, and you have no power. So you have to present something. All you have to work with is social pressure or guns. That's about it. And we're living through this time of social justice movement. All these things are in place now for this to work. So if I go to Google and say, hey, Google, here's a new technology for you to optimize search, for you to sort, for you to qualify information that AI can use and that each person can interact with the algorithm, well, that's something valuable. They already want to read your mind. Here you go. You can read my mind even better. But I get to tinker back. I get to tinker with the algorithm back with a standardized format. I don't like that. I don't like that ad. I don't like that information. Oh, I asked for this. What I meant to say was this. You fine tune the algorithm with this. So there's a lot to it, and let me just throw up my. It sounds crazy until you watch it happen, and
I just shut off my algorithm, my data collection. Like if you Google like my activity and you type onto your account, it shows like the videos that you most recently watched, all the websites that you looked up. You can clear all that out, and then you can just basically turn off where you don't want them to collect data on the website to look at and the video.
No problem.
And I've done that.
Problem.
And it's just like now I just get random videos that are like 5 years old.
Right. So that sucks too, right? You aren't even getting what you want for content. Try this one.
Well, it's kind of good in a way because I don't want Google to have my data. So it's like it's liberty in a way, but I'll take the cost of the inconvenience of YouTube. Like the thing is, like,
do you believe they deleted that data?
Yeah, like I don't want them collecting my data. Like I want them
but do you believe they honestly delete it?
No, not 100%, but I want to take precautions as much as possible.
Yeah, and I'm not making fun of you at all here. I'm a computer guy. That's my background. but
Uh-huh.
data, who knows what got backed up and where it got
Oh
back.
yeah,
I
I'm
don't.
sure there's yeah.
So imagine if you got targeted by a government agency. Hey, Google, what's this guy been up to? The IMF is already talking about checking your browser history before they give you any money. How about that,
Yeah.
right? So you're powerless, and you're taking precautions, and you got to do what you got to do. But
Yeah, I
bottom
mean,
line
just
is,
don't use Google. That's maybe just
yeah,
have your own
that's
server.
easy. Don't
Yeah.
don't use Google. Don't use Facebook. Don't, and that's valid too. Personally, I was never
Yeah.
on Facebook, never on these social medias. It was, I just had my life, I had my own thing. But I jumped on because of the hysteria, just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. I don't understand, because I never watch news. I just never interacted that way. I use the internet, of course, all the time.
Decided to jump into the dumpster fire with the rest of us, eh?
That's it. That's it. And I'm like the frog that jumped into the boiling pots of propaganda, and I wanted to figure out how did this work. So what you can see, my math is a reverse hack of the algorithm, and it's in a format that people can understand. So anyway, I've got to go. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that. I encourage you. It sounds crazy. So what I'm calling it is the Financial World Champion Super Librix Magic Show, and that's what I'm doing on Twitter. So I invite you to watch and laugh. If you look back to the past couple posts here, it's starting to get very, very interesting. And I'm posting everything public. It's all open source. I've got a list of my whole adventure on Facebook. I didn't intend for this, but I developed it on Facebook, and hey, there's the history right there. We'll go look through my Facebook feed, and you'll see how it developed. It's really something kind of interesting. So what I'm calling it,
Are you
Jan,
talking
I'm calling
about
it
hacking a Google algorithm?
exactly. Yes, that's it.
Oh,
So
okay.
now,
Sorry, I was gone for about like 5-10 minutes, so I missed part of
yeah.
the conversation. But,
Oh yeah.
so,
Actually, I didn't mention that, but yes, that's what I did.
oh,
So
okay. That's
it's
interesting.
it is. It's very interesting and unbelievable until you see it happen in front of your eyes. So I'm calling it a magic show. And in honor of Jen, I call all my jokes next Jen humor. She's hilarious. I love her. I love her. She's awesome.
Thank you.
So
See you
so
later.
Jen, yeah, I gotta go, but thank you for
Nice talking.
and nice talking to you guys, and we'll see you later. Yep. Bye.
Bye. Oh, God. I wasn't ready to transition to the people blowing smoke up my ass phase.
Oh, sorry.
Don't be sorry, you haven't done it.
I would never do
almost,
that.
I know, John. I miss the good old days where
Oh no, I just exhaled smoke, actual smoke. Sorry, I'm stoned.
It's cool, dude. I totally get it. It's no problem. Like most people, honestly, I never have a problem with. Like I'm not a drama person. I just like have no problems at all. But some people are just like, it's inevitable that their lives are just that's on them, you know.
I never got that.
Got what?
People blowing smoke up your butt. I probably just scare those
They're
people
just
away.
happy. They're just happy because of knowledge, and it makes people happy and / possibly fear. I mean, it's hard to tell, and I don't want to, you know, but usually it's one or the other.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like I'm kind of like Duvid, you know. It's like I don't want to be flattered too much. If something good happened to you, then of course I want to hear about it. But you know, I get suspicious of flattery.
Mm-hmm.
Insults, though, not so much. Insults are ultra predictable. Not that I'm saying I want you to insult me.
You can turn off the insults again if you want.
I don't. No, I can just kick you out in 2 seconds if you get rude. So I love that about this new setup. But I would not that I like insults. I don't, but I'd rather insults than insincere flattery. And I just feel like all flattery is kind of insincere in a way. I mean, unless it's a
I
genuine
didn't feel
compliment.
any insincere flattery anytime recently. Was I missing something? I was just sort of smoking and listening on the side here. I didn't hear anyone being insincere, I don't think.
I guess I'm saying I feel like all flattery is insincere. I know that's not the case. That's not the case. I know that. You know, not to be a bitch or anything. It's just my personal preference. But yeah, Bear Trap says he likes your theory, Super Librix. So you got someone. And he says you're real smart. So, yippee. I don't concur, but hey, to each their own. I don't know what that means, that I'm an elephant. I really don't.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about CV19, and I left to get the glass of milk, and then this guy was talking.
Okay. Yeah, what city are you in?
I'm in Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan, the windy
Yeah.
apple.
Yeah, flat. You can see very long distances.
Ah, okay, all right. You guys
My
have
prof,
curfew
my
up
prof
there?
had a joke. My prof had a joke. You know, he's just like, who would make the best sailors out of all of Canada? Said people from Saskatchewan, because it's just flat.
You'd be good in the calm water, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it can get windy, so I mean,
Yeah,
often that
fair.
way, but yeah. There's the odd valley here or there, but
I dig it.
yeah.
So you guys like stomping Tom Connors out there too?
Actually, that was like my first concert I went to.
Nice. Fucking legend.
Yeah.
Best. Love stomping Tom. Tears me up.
Yeah.
Tears me
Yeah,
up.
I
listening to
have a couple friends from Montreal too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on. Good
Do you
town.
do
Good
you
town.
speak French?
Once good town. Pardon me?
Do you speak French?
Oui, monsieur.
Tu parles français.
Oui, je parle français comme un vrai tabarnak de Québec, là, tabarnak.
Oh, you tabernacle guy,
Jean,
you're stupid
Jean,
Quebecois. What
Jean,
the heck? This like Quebecois
Jean, il est
accent. Oh,
franco-ontarien. Jean, il sait parler français ontarien.
Hey, you talk ugly like that when you do that. Not good.
oh.
Yeah.
It's like
So,
it's
yeah,
like when I hear the Quebecois accent, it kind of reminds me of like the deep South English accent of like the French language. Because like if you like study like the Acadians, like they speak very clearly.
There's blood there though. There's a connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Like Canadians came from up here.
Yeah, but they speak like clear.
No,
Like
they
I
don't.
can understand them.
They do not. That's not true. They speak a Shiak that's incomprehensible borderline. I have to translate it twice.
I'm just saying they're the first Montrealers to go party in New Orleans. That's
oh,
all
not
I'm saying.
Acadians.
I have to translate that language
not Acadians.
two times.
Sorry, not
two
Acadians.
times if I'm going to speak it. I can't follow it half the time. I can't speak
I have a friend from the East Coast who's Acadian, and I met her mom once, and I literally couldn't understand a word she was saying. She's like, "That la bar la dur la fucking," and it blew my mind. Like I straight up,
they get worse.
I was like, I looked at her and I was like, I don't know what she's saying. Like I'm not trying to be rude. Like I don't understand your mom. You have to translate.
Yeah. What about in the States? Oh shit, I can't put a name to them right now. The French people in New Orleans. Fuck. I forget their name. What is it?
Heroin addict. Okay.
I don't know. But anyway. But yeah, like if the French like in the deep South, they speak very clearly, and it's probably like if you're like learning French, probably listening to them talk is probably way
like
better than
kind of French kind of thing. Like
yeah, like they speak like they're very enunciative with their
Jean, tu comprends que le français du Québec c'est plus comme le français original. Tu comprends qu'il y a un français original, oui, Jean? Est-ce possible?
All right, I haven't been brushed up on my French in a little bit, but yeah, I would not listen to Quebecois French to learn a new language.
French is kitsch, okay? It's adorable.
Quebecois French is the better French, okay? It's the real French.
I will white knight for Quebec French forever.
Perfect.
It allowed me such a wonderful range of accents in my adulthood. I have to thank Quebecois French for the mishmash of that. So.
Nice. No, that's. I grew up here, man. It's the best. It's the best. It really is the best.
I grew up in Rosemere.
Oh, nice. I grew up in Lorne Heights. You know where that is?
Yeah. Isn't that near the skiing?
Yep, near Skimorn Heights. Well, now
Yeah.
called Somemorin Heights.
Yeah, we used to go to Avila all the time.
Nice. Yeah, I skied there a bunch too. Sweet.
Yeah, it's an awesome spot. Rosemere is so nice. Like, it has competitions for the nicest gardens. Could you imagine?
That sounds like a lovely place to live. Like, competitions for gardens doesn't sound violent at all. Perfect.
That's like what it's known for, is like, people spending all their time in their garden or competition. And they even have, like, in the community center, these plant expositions. They used to have these amazing what are they called? The cannibal plants, or no, the carnivore plants. The
Like
these
that?
fly traps.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was just awesome. Anyway,
Maranises?
got on a tangent there. But yeah, it's a great spot. Montreal's great too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
one's great. It's quite in flux right now, but yeah, it's maniacal, backwards shit right now.
I like their
I mean,
churches.
Yeah, cool churches in Montreal for sure. Cool, bizarre,
Mhm.
weirdo, ethnic ones too. Like the Santa Cruz one in the Plateau is wild. Like a sort of very 60s design, sort of 60s deco kind of church. Very rad.
Mhm. There's like
Yeah,
a
right by
big
the mountain,
Orthodox
too.
Jewish group there, isn't there? Like
Pardon me?
there's like a big Orthodox Jewish community there
Oh,
as well.
big time, big time. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I heard
Outremont,
that
or
like
Doutremont.
sometimes they would like go in the middle of the street and they just like argue about like Middle East conflicts.
yeah, they're like
I don't
the
know, I heard
cartoon
that too.
character of it. That's great. I love the Jewish hood. It's the best.
Yeah.
If you're up there on a Saturday though, you gotta be wary, because one of them will grab you and be like, "Hey, are you Jewish?" And you'll be like, "No." Like, "Oh, can you help me with something?" You gotta like turn something on or off, or open a door for them or something on Saturday. So if you're in the hood, in the Hasidic hood on Saturday, you're gonna get asked favors. So I avoid it on Saturday because I don't want to go do shit.
Okay. Good to know.
But you can do a mitzvah if you're there, and you can.
We actually had we had somebody from the CMP actually run out of Montreal in the 43rd election. His name is Ray Coelho. Yeah. I don't know. He does a lot of like work there.
How long has your family been in Montreal?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I grew up here whole life. I'm 41.
What about your parents?
My dad's from Manitoba. My mom grew up here.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because back in the day, one of my relatives was involved in politics, and he also had a radio show. He was a semi-notable figure in Montreal, but this is going back, like, way back when a name used to mean something. Making a name mean something great again.
What was their name?
Frank Hanley.
Frank Hanley? Radio show? Not
Pardon
ringing a bell. I grew up listening to Shom with
Shom
what's
FM.
his name? Yeah, Shom FM with like Claude Rajat had the new music show at midnight. I remember like that you could hear like techno and like electronic music and shit at midnight. It was I'm Claude Rajat and you're not, and he had the electronic music show. So
That's awesome. What did I go?
I
to
heard
that
Montreal's like known for like heavy metal. Or like
oh yeah, big. It's like a time travel, time warp. It's like going back to exactly between 96 2000 over and over again, nonstop. That's what the metal scene is like.
What's it called? Ice Fest? What's that outdoor techno thing? It's like Ice Fest or something?
Oh, like right now, like the winter stupid shit.
No, but you know the one I mean. I forget what it's called. I don't know if it's right now, but it's like it's outdoors and it's like a bunch of ice and shit. Ice Fest or
the
something?
ice hotels.
I forget what it's called. Yeah, something stupid. It's something I hate every year and ignore. So, yeah.
I've been to that before.
I just like go.
Don't
I
they
live
have like
quite close
the
to the
Red
mountain.
Bull
I
Crash
go for
Ice?
bike rides on the mountain. That's the main thing I do over here.
Yeah.
Oh, you're one of those. Just
Yeah, I
kidding.
like to ride my bike.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, you reminded
man.
me of one of my physics profs. He's into the fucking mountain biking. He just go right up the mountain. I'm like, why? Yeah,
It's
there's a
fun.
Wikipedia on my I guess it's like my mom's great uncle or something. I don't know who it is exactly. Some relative. My mom's cousin.
Okay,
I don't
guys.
even
Okay.
know.
Hmm.
He died in 2006 and he was born in 1909. He was a Canadian
Damn.
politician. And my family all remembers him. So anyway, a little bit of Montreal trivia there.
Nice.
Great
Long
place
life.
though.
Good job, Frankie.
Represent. Hanley, yeah. 5 Hanley sisters, so pretty big family.
Oh, what time is it now? Should we, I don't know, talk about some other shit in our hometown?
Yeah, sure. So back to consciousness is like
Yeah.
there's a problem intrinsic to defining consciousness, which is the self-referential problem, and then there's the issue that matter arises simultaneously. So the attributes of matter, including consciousness, arises simultaneously. So it's just there. It's intrinsic. It's not there and then like the idea that consciousness causes matter to form is not how it works.
Well, no, when I
Consciousness
said
is
primer, I
just
didn't
there.
necessarily mean causally. I meant it was there before it.
Well, wouldn't there be no way to know what was there
There's
before?
probably no way to know.
Right. So I would argue that
But I
no way
leave
to
room
know.
for there must be things that are impossible to know. There has to be things that are impossible to know.
Okay. You can't okay. I want to go over this again. Axiomatically, to be a good philosopher, you can't assert a negative like that.
Okay, well, I'm not asserting a negative. I'm going to assert that it's impossible to know everything.
Impossible, that's a negative.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you start by asserting a negative,
I know. Let me contort.
What you want to do is you want to phrase it the way that as a
That's what I'm
positive.
trying to do.
So you
That's
phrase
what I'm
it
trying
and
to
you say there's a limitation on human potentiality in
But
terms
I mean,
of
you're
perception.
saying that wouldn't that just be 6 of one, half a dozen of the other?
You want to make sure you steer clear of asserting a negative axiomatically because you get yourself in a position to defend something essentially indefensible because a negation is not the same as a thing. A thing is a thing. A negation is a non-thing. It's like
Okay, so do you think everything can be known?
I think it's not clear to what extent things can be known, and I think it's clear that there's a limit to human subjectivity.
Okay, so we kind of agree, I think, then.
I just think it's bad form to assert a negative because you're off the bat. You're saying, nah, it's impossible. The truth is that you don't really
It's
know.
kind of creeping like postmodernism.
You don't
You've
really
added
know
red
what's
ink, and
possible.
now we agree, though. You've added the red ink. I agree with your correction, and we agree, do we not? So?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely down to agree. I'm definitely up for agreement because agreement is super positive. Like, I'm not trying to be overly pedantic, but it is
I know.
important
I
because
want to make sure I'm following and that if I'm agreeing or you're agreeing, that we're talking the same thing.
yeah, I think we are so far. But if you notice, like on the JF chat, there's a lot of people who just constantly assert negatives, and it really derails the conversation. And so it's like we have to just stop.
I haven't really watched any recent JF streams.
Yeah. I wish you would talk about science more. It's just like the crypto stuff's just like
That always talking about. Now, the last thing I tuned in, the last thing I think I saw of a him stream was him talking about David Icke. So that was months ago, right? I guess. And I don't want to talk about David Icke at all.
Was he talking about aliens?
No, he wasn't talking about aliens. He was talking about David Icke's take on the COVID.
Yeah, I'm not going to judge if you're into aliens. I've been delving into that a little bit. So,
I don't think there's aliens. I'm gonna say that right away. I don't think.
Well, I mean,
aliens.
there has been other species that our government has been interacting with that they haven't really told us about.
Well, then how do you know about it?
Because there's government dossiers, declassified information that speaks to the Canadian military. I think Randy Hillier speaks about it.
Randy Hillier talked about aliens?
Yeah.
I don't want to go down this road. No.
Oh, me either. Oh, but that makes me sad because I felt like Randy Hillier was like a hope in this COVID thing, and he starts talking about aliens, that might derail the whole actually saving us from tyranny thing.
Well, I mean, the aliens could be part of the tyranny.
I don't buy aliens. I believe that they're pulling out aliens now because now the world has the technology to fake it. And I called this years ago. I'm like, no, but forever ago I thought that, yeah, if there's an alien thing, they're not going to do it yet. It hasn't happened yet because they don't have the technology to pull it off yet. Once they have the technology to pull it off, then they'll do it. So I think now we're at a level of technology where they can successfully fool a bunch of people that aliens are here. So I don't think aliens are real. I think that if there's an alien conspiracy, it's a government fucking weirdo fucking conspiracy where they're fooling people with fucking aliens. That's what I think. I don't know. I really don't buy aliens. I think
it's a thought experiment. Have you ever heard of like the Terra Papers?
The what?
The Terra Papers?
Terra, as in like Terra, woman's name Terra?
Yeah, it was Robert Morningsky is the author of it, and he wrote this in like
sorry.
The what?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about aliens.
I do not want to talk. If you guys want to talk somewhere else, please be my guest. I really don't want to talk about this at all. There's tons of rabbit holes. You could go into whatever rabbit hole you want, but if you want to be a philosopher, you have to actively purify your mind and not get distracted with stuff that's just not. You got to prioritize.
Yeah.
What control do you have?
Not on any list. Aliens are not on a priority list unless it's a weird fake thing. That's my stance on that.
Yeah, it's something just to think about. That's what I just.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it, and I actually saw a UFO when I was a teenager too. And my instant thought was that that's some kind of technology. Like, obviously, I saw a thing, you know, and my jump to thought wasn't space aliens. My jump to thought was people make stuff. Sometimes people make stuff I haven't seen. Maybe it's stuff some people I haven't seen have made. You know, that's what I thought. What I think.
Well, you can go at it from this angle, like from like the 1950s. You had like the show like the Jetsons, where they were like talking about like in the 21st century or
they're planting the idea that they can pull off a weird, like maybe it was always in fiction and ideas like that. It was always seeded from a person. You know, people take the ball and run in the past. Doesn't mean they have to know where the idea came from, but maybe all of those ideas in fiction came from a plan to trick people eventually with technology. You know, people have been tricking people for the entirety of time. That's the whole game. That's warfare. Most of warfare is trickery and information and misinformation. That's what warfare is and has been for all of time. So I wouldn't put anything past anybody.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that more likely than not, if there is some kind of, aliens are here, and they're floating the idea on news channels and stuff now, and yeah, so I don't know, it seems like more likely that it would be, you know, militaries of this world perpetrating a false flag alien attack. I would think would make more sense than intergalactic travelers. You know, with a incentive
you look at
to
like
work with one or more governments. You know, why would aliens come and alive? You know, it doesn't make sense. Why would they talk to government first? And that's all. See, that's too much.
Well, the theory is like the theory is, and this is just a theory. You don't have to take it for like face value. Is that they have there's resources that are valuable in the earth, like such as gold, that other alien tribes would want to extort.
Get off of
yeah, exactly. It just seems it's so speculative. It's too speculative. It's fantasy. Yeah, it's speculative.
It's speculative, and that's the thing. Like, I know it sounds cool, but it's like what is
exactly.
it?
It's taking the aesthetic too far.
What's the word? It's a moth to a flame. It's like, I don't want you to fly into the flame. Don't fly into the flame. Like, don't be the moth. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. It's totally moth. Oh,
and fear porn is the
I'm willing
same
to die on
thing.
that hill.
You want to die on that hill? Okay, well, find, you know, it's like flat Earth. You know, find people you want to talk to about that, but don't bother people who aren't interested with it, because you can't back any of that stuff up with valid evidence, and it's hard.
What about
to
like the Egyptian
valid
statues, the half dog and the half human?
Well, that doesn't prove anything, John.
Yeah. What about Primus? That's a weird
So what?
band. What about Primus? That's a weird band. Must have been aliens, right?
Well,
Metallica. You know what I mean? Like, you're picking something that's art or creative and saying it's weird, so it's aliens. That doesn't make any sense, you know? Art and sculpture and stuff has been all over the world forever. It's what cultures do, you know?
But why would there be like a statue of like a
anything,
half
it's
dog and a
insulting to
half?
the historical cultures to give the credit to other worlds.
Well, how did the
That's
pyramids get constructed?
Sonar tech.
Yeah,
Sonar tech.
definitely. Yeah, definitely some tech, and definitely sound is. We know what sound can do. Everything, matter, right?
Matter waves. Yeah, matter waves. Perturbation. Ground state. 0-point energy perturbation. Ground state perturbation.
And that's the thing, and I believe that like, you know, people in the world probably still know that, or some people do. I believe that there's secret knowledge, but
Sonar
I don't think we need to
tech
get into it.
sonar tech is so okay. I don't know if you've ever heard my quote of the bottleneck is always the person, the human. Sonar tech is no different. And it's even more so. So like your ability to use that technology, you can know what it is in theory. We've known what matter waves are since de Broglie, which is a while back. So it's not a secret that matter waves are real, but to understand the level at which the primacy of matter waves plays into the evolution of space-time, that is heavily down to the individual who is calibrating the machine that is ultimately going to be used to generate these frequencies.
I guess it's kind of like the first people experimenting with electricity hundreds of years ago. They didn't know how to make it work into circuits and to put capacitors and block the signal and weaken it here and there. All they did was make cool lightning bolts and wow crowds, right? So
do you think it was humans that did this?
Yes.
Pardon me?
Yes. Obviously, that's the most. Okay, so John, here's the thing. Let's say we don't know, but the most likely explanation is that it was humans. And maybe it was something else, but until we have evidence for something else, we're going to go with the most likely explanation.
Exactly. And if you want to keep it unknown, we can just say it's unknown instead of the speculating, I guess. I don't know. That's what, to save energy anyway, right?
Well, I think it's sort of pointless to argue about stuff when you've already come to the conclusion that you don't agree. And then it's just like, good to focus on the stuff where you can progress the conversation. But in order to derive benefits from the system, you have to learn the system. And if you don't accept all the tenets of the system, well, it's like it's a machine with a hole in it. Okay. It's going to leak out. It's not going to work. The machine has to be closed. Otherwise, it's one thing, all the beliefs have to be there. But I don't think the beliefs are unreasonable, honestly.
Me too. I agree. That's the thing. I don't think they're impossible. I just think it's fruitless to talk about things that we don't have the information about, right? It's like, I don't know fucking shit about hockey. I'm not going to start talking about the team trading and stuff. And I'm not saying you don't know anything about aliens. I'm just saying that generally the stuff you're taking on as assumptions is a lot bigger than the stuff you're standing on as solid hard data. So that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, data is colored through the lens of assumptions or axioms. And so we're looking at, what are the axioms? Well, we want to describe the system as simply as possible. And basically what I'm saying, John, is that there's not enough positive evidence for aliens. There's something that's purporting to be evidence in support of aliens, but it doesn't rise to the standard of credible evidence. And that's the thing that disappoints a lot of people, is that not a lot of stuff rises to the standard of credible evidence. Like, those people who are obsessed with analyzing car videos and like conspiracy theories and stuff.
Analyze car videos? Yeah,
you know what I mean. What I mean. The people who obsess about
like the flat Earth. Yeah.
Not flat Earth people, but like people who are like Alex Jones type, like, oh my God, it was a false flag type thing.
Right.
Okay, so here's the problem with that, is that none of that evidence can be validated. Okay, I used to work for the police. Okay, I validated evidence. That was part of my job. Okay, so I would get some evidence, and it was very important that the chain of custody not be broken. Okay, so if at any point that got effed up, the whole case was screwed, right? So it's super important. So when these things show up on the internet, okay, chain of evidence. Where did it come from? We have no real way, right? On the internet. That's kind of the nature
I mean,
of the
this
internet.
guy I'm talking about
So you have
basically
to
did this
sort
with
of
channeling.
you have to sort of look at it as like, I can't necessarily trust that what is purported to be depicted is actually what's being depicted. So you cannot resolve the origin of the fraud, if there is a fraud, because you can't establish what the origin of the media is. So you've broken the chain of custody. So it's essentially, I'm talking unless you have a literal smoking gun, so to speak. I don't mean literal, sorry. I mean like a, metaphorical smoking gun. Speculation on that level is ultimately resting on an unbroken, if it's going to have credibility, it needs an unbroken chain of custody.
I think that actually would be a literal smoking gun.
Well, I mean, it's like,
You're talking,
if you had, here's the thing, like I won't speak to what it was, but I have seen audio video data that I considered compelling, even though it came from the internet.
No, I meant as in the correct use of the word literal, I think is all I meant.
Well, because it wasn't a literal smoking gun. It was a figurative smoking gun, because a literal smoking gun would be an actual gun smoking, but that wouldn't necessarily, what does that prove? The point is that stuff can be staged. Stuff can be faked.
So the literal smoking gun is that it's not actually a smoking gun, but you're referring to a literary situation of a smoking gun. So that's where it's a literal.
That's not what literal means, though. Literal means that they're on the video is depicted a smoking gun, which is not what I'm alluding to here.
That would be an actual smoking gun. That's an actual smoking gun. The literal.
No, that's a literal smoking gun. So you're saying now literally means figuratively. Are you literally telling me that that's what that is?
Anyway, let's move on.
Good old Montreal.
Tabarnak.
Stem. Yeah. Where were we? And that whole traipse.
About the validating evidence, unless it's a smoking gun.
You have to be able to know how to pick out something. Like, I have obtained information from the internet, even though it was unvalidated. But the manner in which I obtain the information, I am going through a process of checking it that is extremely rigorous. Not just, oh my God, I saw something that seemed really compelling, but it was light on evidence. See, the thing is, John, I profile. So it's like, if it's light on evidence and heavy on rhetoric, I'm going to ignore it, because to me, that's pushing an agenda. You lay out that fucking evidence right away. You get in the door, you slam it down. And that's what I'm doing on my blog. It's like, here you go. I'm slamming the information. Yeah, it's 2,000 words, but it's a lot of information. But it's like, get in, get the job done, get out, have some.
Even though it's a lot of work, that's still more practical than going the direction where there's more rhetoric, because you're just more likely to get spun around in confusion and not really find the actual strands of real data and information. You might, if you go the route where there's too many people talking crazy shit, then some of them who are talking crazy might be on the persuasive side, too. So,
there's a real limit to that.
Well, I mean, yeah, for any serious person, for sure. Of course.
I mean, it's kind of like it takes on like
you
the
can tell
belief
when someone's a carny, Like I like to think that like the Blink 182 guy. I mean, he's a carny, so he's a carny. That's it,
I have lost the thread of this convo yet again. I'm sorry. It's going in a million directions here.
Okay, let's get away from aliens and get back to where we were then.
Where were we?
I think we were trying to get away from aliens.
Consciousness.
My consciousness.
You're talking about, so you laid it out where you had the proton is the smallest observable molecule, and then the furthest away.
John, it's not a molecule, it's the smallest observable distance. So you know what a distance is, right? Like a 100-meter dash, right. That's a distance of 100 meters.
Right. Oh, distance, right.
Distance, yeah.
And the stars is the furthest observable distance.
The largest observable distance is the largest individual distance between two stars.
Right. And then between that is basically, there's 14 dimensions.
There's one more step. Okay, so there's 42 linear orders. So that means that
Right.
if you start with a proton, okay, and you
Mhm.
times that by 10, and then you
Mhm.
times it, and then you do that 42 times, okay, times 10 times to 42. The
Mhm.
number you get is on the order of the largest interstellar distance.
Okay. That makes sense.
So far we are still at linear distance, okay? But in reality, linear distance is not a thing. There's always a tripartite distance, meaning that distance occurs in threes, x, y, z. Okay? So you understand
Mhm.
that there's three independent dimensions in space?
Right.
So those three dimensions have no existence apart. They come in a trinity, right? I can't isolate a dimension.
Okay, so
Right.
yeah.
So we have to fold 42 into 14, which is 42 divided by 3, because the 3 are what you call quantum mechanically is called entangled. Okay? So 42 divided by 3, 14. So that means you got 14 layers of reality. And those layers correspond to geometric sizes. So out of those layers, I was saying before, I think we're about on the fifth one. I could be off by a bit. But if you're just counting like from the bottom of the universe, which is your smallest distance, right? Because that's where we started in the reasoning tree with the protons.
This
So you
is kind
start
of like
there.
Kepler thing a bit, right?
I'm not really familiar with his thing other than the Kepler law, which is to do with planetary orbits
He did the
and
thing with the platonic solids as the geometric shapes and size out for the orbits of the planets. So what was it, the Mysterium Cosmographicum?
cool. So maybe he solved quantropy, all those hundreds of
Pick
years
up a
ago.
picture of that right now, and it'll look like your thing you're describing. I think the way you're describing the dimensions encased in these distances. If you look, just Google that image. I think the picture will be what you're saying. I think, sort of. Well, in a graphic kind of way.
Hey, what is it?
Mysterium Cosmographicum, I think. Something like.
He got an even more gangster name than I did. Damn, this guy is cool.
Is that what you're talking about, kind of like structurally?
I've never seen this before, so I'm excited because if somebody came up with my theory before I did, that would be fucking cool. All right, so
Go to images because it's the images you want to see.
like this. Yeah, this is platonic. It looks platonic to me from what little I know about Platonism, but
Yeah, it's platonic.
this is obviously wrong. There are no polygons in space.
You're a polygon.
Why don't you go polygon yourself? Oh, I'm gonna leave a
Hey.
burning bag of polygon on your front doorstep.
Anyway, I envisaged something like this in my mind when you were describing those other 14 layers, though. I was picturing something like that in my head.
Sure. So you could say like this is a Platonic interpretation of a theory that was probably on the same path to discovering what I did.
He got these distances. It's the sun and all the orbits of the visible at the time naked eye planets, though, and it's pretty accurate for the distances. So what it does solve, it does pretty beautifully in its isolated little system, though. It's pretty rad. Those platonic solids describe their mass describes the distances and proportions of the orbits of the known planets in the known solar system at the time, though. So that's pretty cool.
So he described what? The mass?
Well, look, read the little blurb on it. It'll describe it better than me. I'm a stoned cook right now. It's late for me too.
I can't believe you're fucking dropping something on this, excuse me, level of complexity, and you're like, oh well, you figure it out. I'm a stone cook.
No,
It's
I
like,
didn't say you figure it out. It says like read the blurb. It'll describe that. Well, what I said stupidly just now is the math. Yeah, no, but the geometry is describing like the ratio of the distance and orbits of the like those planets.
Okay, well, I'll just text to speech it. So can you guys just mute for a second so we can listen in?
Yeah.
Thanks,
I
guys.
don't know how
Okay, my text to speech isn't working for some reason. I'm really sad.
I think you could YouTube it. No, there's probably a YouTube thing on this.
Nah. All right, I'll just
Nah.
have to read it out loud. He said he realized regular polygons bound one inscribed circle at definite ratios, which he reasoned might be the geometrical basis of the universe after failing to find a unique arrangement of polygons that fit known astronomical observations, even with extra planets added to the system. Kepler began experimenting with three-dimensional polyhedra. He found that each of the 5 platonic solids could be uniquely inscribed and circumscribed by spherical orbs. Nesting these solids, each encased in a sphere within one another, would produce 6 layers corresponding to the 6 known planets. I don't quite understand the significance of this at this time, but I might have to research it a little bit more.
Well, the reason I brought it up is, like I said, like the visual there, what you were describing in your breakdown of the dimensions was feeling like that to me in some aesthetic way. So if that makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it. Cool. Nice. I was digging for a cool.
Yeah, I mean this could probably if it's correct.
This is old
out
and
my
probably
theory.
not correct, but yeah, it's I think from what I know about it, it describes stuff, but it doesn't describe the planets that we found after he did this. So yeah, what's it? 1595? Yeah, it's a long time ago.
I'm having trouble even visualizing what he's even talking about. Because in my model, it's
So
basically
I have a
I think
question.
he's just trying to ask questions. I think it's just general curiosity, like you.
Yeah. So I just have a question. So what's the difference between your model and say like a traditional like establishment physics model? Like what would be like the fundamental axioms that would be different
well,
from a traditional model?
I accept the axioms that the traditional model purports to accept: causality and observability. So I definitely, existence and causality are my axioms. So causality is real and the universe is real. So those are my, and I don't think any scientist would disagree that
No,
those
I mean
things
that's
are.
the obvious. That's A is
But
A, and we agree on that, right?
perhaps my interpretation of those fundamental axioms, on which I don't really think we disagree, but I could be wrong.
Right.
I think the interpretation is just different.
In what way?
Well, you'd have to look more into it. I mean, look at Standard Model. They believe that everything is a model in particles.
Okay.
So that approach works that way.
What's your approach on the atomic? Is there
There's no
bits of
particles.
atoms?
There's no particles.
good.
There's only waveforms, and there's 4 waveforms.
I like that. Yeah, I don't see particles either. Particles don't make sense. Like then there would be cloud particles. That's what the clouds are made of. Cloud particles.
You could say that particles are a social construct. So yeah, they axiomatize particles, whereas I axiomatize waveforms. But I'm not actually. This is not actually controversial. Like, this is actually how you're supposed to interpret. Well, this is an interpretation of quantum mechanics. So it's like
Right.
they have this standard model interpretation, which is everything is particles, but they also interpret it as everything is waves, because that's what's called the Schrodinger equation. So you have some degree of contradiction between fields of physics, right? So
Right.
I think my views are probably less weird than you'd think. It's just that, I like to kind of have a fun time of things or whatever, be a little
Okay.
clownish. But, like in reality, I'm interpreting them in a way that's correct. And unfortunately, some other interpretations aren't as correct. Like
Oh, I
accretion
see.
is
Okay.
accretion is the model for planet creation in the
Mhm.
mainstream model. Well, do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so why are you even asking? I'm just curious.
I was just testing your knowledge. I'm just curious. That's all. It's not like it's not like a gotcha question. I'm actually just inquiring. Like I'm just generally curious. I just wanted to pick your brain. That's all.
Yeah, so it's a uncreated universe, and the axioms are causality and existence. And then it's a matter of interpreting those axioms. And then you use the proper way to interpret them, which has already been determined by history.
Okay.
Where is
Interesting.
karma?
Karma is causality.
Where is it?
Where is it?
And what is it made of? Yeah.
It's an archetypal system, aka metaphysical system, which construes that causes bring about effects. Basically, the idea that it's possible to distinguish a cause and its an effect and its causes. So where is that? It doesnn't exist in reality. It exists metaphysically.
No, but I think doesn't karma exist in reality in the same
Karma
way that
karma is what causes, right? So just think of karma as that which causes, okay?
Yeah. So
reality,
karma causes your soul?
karma is the operating mechanism behind everything. So if you're saying that karma operates, all you're saying is that there were some causes and then there were some effects. It's a very general thing. Okay, usually when references are made to karma, it's a particular reference, like a personal karma, not a generalized thing. It's really as simple as causality on the, basic level.
But on a metaphysical level, where is it? And like where's
It
your
is
soul
metaphysical. That's where it is. So the question is, where's
But are intangible things real? Do you grant them reality even though you can't see
metaphysical is more real than reality in a sense.
So things
I agree with that. Yeah.
So then how can you say also that there are no counterspatial realities? Because isn't that a counterspatial reality? It's not tangible.
No, it's it's super spatial reality. Counter implies some sort of negative
well maybe
symmetry.
That's what I meant. Maybe it's a terminology thing I've been wrong about. But what I mean is the other side of what we see as reality is a real place, but in a realness that we can't wrap our teeth around.
Well, it's because it's inside and outside. It's inside and outside. It's the monad, okay? This is what the monad is about. It's inside and outside, which seems like a contradiction.
No, it doesn't. Like you've read, you know Flatland? You remember the book Flatland?
No.
Oh, damn.
Sorry.
Never mind then. Continue. Sorry.
But I mean, the way I look at it, and sorry if this might be a layman like interpretation, but is so one person can look at a forest and be like, hey, look, there's some trees I can take down for shelter, and I can make a fire over here, and I can maybe make this into a sphere and go fishing. So that'd be one aspect of it. So I'd be like a hunter. And then another person could look at the same thing the hunter looked at, like the same forest, and be like, wow, that's beautiful. I'm going to paint it, and I'm going to show it.
That's beautiful. I'm serious. Why are you laughing? I mean it.
Did you?
I'm laughing.
Oh, okay.
I'm laughing because you're serious.
Okay, good. It's a little nervous, this chuckle. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yes, that's part of it. So that's a beautiful metaphor.
Hmm.
If we just go one step deeper though, the question we
But
want to answer is, when this guy, your first guy in your example who made what was it, a fishing rod?
Yeah.
Where
Well, yeah.
here's the question
yeah.
we want to answer. Where did the entity of the fishing rod originate?
Density of the fishing rod.
Where
It
did it
was
start?
there.
Is this going to be platonic? Is that what you're talking about? A platonic realm then? With the bicycle, where'd the bicycle come from? Is that what you're talking about?
I call myself a proto-Platonist, so.
Yeah, no, I give a lot of attention to that area though, because those concepts, you can only ask that question, so you can only say evolution for so long with some ideas like that, some inventions like that. Like, I mean, the wheel I think was obvious. I think you saw the wheel. Everyone saw something roll, but like to turn it into a machine is different, obviously. But like, yeah, no, I see.
That's why Dharma is called the Dharma wheel, the wheel. Everything is wheels, you know? I call it quantum computers, though.
So just everything snowballs to entropy then?
Well, the quantum computer is a big sphere, and the sphere collapses, and so it gets these nodes of circles, which then are all sort of crunched in together through the measurement limit, and they zoom past each other, not at the speed of light, but their unmodulated speed is the speed of light. Okay, speed of light is constant in a vacuum, but as soon as it goes through a medium, it slows down relative to, that medium, right? Or sorry, relative
so like,
to
in effect, there's no speed of light then.
There is a speed of light, but the nature of the speed of light is counterintuitive. So you have to spend a little time kind of like, okay, realizing my human brain has like this vestigial monkey that's really not used to thinking this way.
Unless we want to measure big distances, it's irrelevant. Turn the lights on, the lights go on. Like for every day, you don't have to ever think about the speed of light. It's instantaneous. For all practical.
It's not life. Though, it's not, because the speed of light dictates your heartbeat, and that's not instantaneous.
No, but I mean, you don't need to learn the knowledge of the speed of light for your heart to beat, though.
Well, well, if you want to understand how the heart beats, you need to know about the speed of light, though. Yeah, okay. But I take your point. You don't need to transcend causality to have a beating heart. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, no, that's all I mean. I don't mean that this isn't interesting. Of course, I'm interested in shit that, like why am I interested in all this shit?
We haven't got to answer the question yet. I've asked the question. Yeah. So what is the origin of the fishing rod? And what's the answer?
I think, I don't know. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, I want to know what you guys think.
The mind?
So the question is, where's the mind?
I think there is a divine thing, and I think the mind is also not. Yeah, I think we are tuning into the mind a little bit. I think there is a divine realm of some kind. I do think that our consciousness is part of that.
Okay, so you got to realize that when he builds this material fishing rod, it's not going to be the perfect construct of the fishing rod. The fishing rod construct is the perfect thing. Like.
Yeah.
When I was displaying my
it'll be a habit, like there's like
my
this
blender
Rupert
thing,
Sheldrake type habit thing. It'll
like
get
Blender,
better and better
is so good. Oh my god, I fucking love this program so much. Like I'm literally like the soy goy nerd off that meme from I fucking love science. I'm like literally that guy. I look at that meme and I think, oh my god, that's literally me every time I'm on this Blender thing. Rant over. Sorry. I just gotta find that thing. Oh, there we go. Okay, so just like the quantum periodic table, right? Like I made a rendition of it and it's perfect within the limits available by the computer, but it's not real, I can make a model of it, but it's not the real thing. But there is a real thing that thing is representing.
Why do you need to print one? Why don't you make a really good interactive app where you click on it and
you make a fucking interactive app. You make an app.
I'm not an app maker. I can make you a sandwich.
I just fucking learned Blender, dude. I'm 10 steps ahead of you. At least I learned Blender. Hey, Gandalf.
You're on the way. This is dope. What you've done here is what you need to do. Something like this that people can touch with their
No,
phones. Everyone
what
has
I
a phone.
need is to finish my example about the fishing rod.
Oh,
So
yes, you do. Yeah.
can you imagine the fishing rod equivalent of the quantum periodic table? It's like a perfect fishing rod. So this fishing rod that this guy builds, it's not perfect, but it's based on, the point is that it's based on something perfect.
Hmm.
And where
Okay.
where's the origin
Well,
of this?
I don't know. Is it based on something perfect? No, that's a philosophical question. It's based on something necessary and practical.
Based on something ideal, then will you accept ideal?
Okay, for this example, yes.
We can also go with pure form. So there's some sort of pure form fishing rod, and he was inspired, and in some sense you could say he discovered the fishing rod and then went on to craft it. The point is that he didn't get the idea when he was finished building it.
But there's a
He had the
potential
idea
field.
before he started building it.
Yeah. Yep.
So the question is, what is
practical
the
need.
origin of this idea? Okay, so did the idea exist within him or without? Okay, so the argument from my philosophy is we define it that the idea was discovered from without. We have no idea if that's true. We have no way of knowing if that's true, but we do that as a compression method. So it's an optimization of consciousness. We want that to be true because we want to think that that's true because it causes consciousness to be more diffuse, which is good. Otherwise, if it's not diffuse enough, you burn out. So it's ultimately a pragmatic stance.
Right.
So in my system, you would say the idea exists in the idealized, eternal, perfect realm, the metaphysical realm.
Well,
And the
it exists
metaphysical
as
realm is like something that is basically the puppeteer for the physical realm. So chain of causality is that this archetypal fishing rod has existed forever. And this grug discovered the archetype because he happened to have some synchronicity between physical and metaphysical reality with this eternal fishing rod archetype. And then he went on to actualize the archetype. So he was bringing down from above this idea.
That's possible. Can I also say that it's possible that because out of need and necessity, he's starting to craft something to catch fish, and that becomes something he becomes habit and gets better at building over time, so that the potential of a perfect fishing rod will exist in the future, but it gets invented kind of by accident and habit over time. So it never existed forever, but the potential, like the mountainside could be any, someone comes and carves any sculpture could be within the rock. It just depends on what you're carving out of it. So every potential is there, but it only starts to emerge once you start to refine it and hone it and chip away at it and actually strive for, because you've assembled the idea of the tool you need to catch fish because you need to eat, but it never really flowered into like a tool that can be a permanent thing you bring around with you until it eventually became that. So it could have, the idea of a perfect thing comes into existence from within, in that you discovered it through habit, that you out of necessity and need. Right?
And this is why karma is so hard to talk about, because it's like, well, how'd you get so far? It's like, well, I toiled with no result for a fucking long time, and then I got a flash of insight, and it's like, oh no, that couldn't be it.
Does that mean it's from without or within, though?
It means that
like it's blurry, though, no?
It's both.
It's kind of from both.
It's
from
both, because
right?
you are the receiver, and so you have to build yourself up to be capable of receiving the signal. The signal is just there. You become harmonized to the signal, and then once you're at that level, it becomes synchronized.
Okay.
So
it's kind of like the Wright brothers when they made a whole bunch of like prototype of the airplane, and they failed a whole bunch of times, and then eventually they got the model that actually took off. Same thing with the fishing rod. You probably have to make a whole bunch of prototypes. Probably the first one probably won't work as well, and then you just kind of like you look at different things that you can fix to make it look better, so you can be more efficient. So you could you can.
Well, then now you're onto a different subject. Now you're talking about work ethic. I'm simply talking about the philosophical origin of ideas, and you need to pick a side. Because what you have on,
Well, I just
I
kind
won't
of
name
said that
names.
it could be both. It could be from within and without, kind of simultaneously, symbiotically. Like it evolved. The
Well,
necessity
there
for a
may be
perfect
complementary
form.
aspects to the same process, but you can't have this oppositional mechanism with no reconciliation.
Yeah.
Because if you say, okay, here's the problem, like you get a model like with evolution, right? What's evolution saying? Hey,
I don't
Gandalf.
like evolution. I don't
Oh.
think evolution's saying anything.
That we evolved through monkeys and we evolved to walk on 2 feet. Well, that's one theory anyway. We were
Yeah, we
walking
ate
on our knuckles
mushrooms,
and then
we
we
ate
got
magic
upright.
mushrooms, and then we figured everything else out. Right?
So
Like the apes were like bumped into Joe Rogan somewhere, and he gave them mushrooms, and
You need to have a consistent metaphysical or ultimate origin of everything. Otherwise, your physics will break down. It may be true, and it is true, that there's a complementary nature. Like you can't like take a pile of LSD and get enlightenment, right? Because you have to work your way up to it. It's not like you can
Mhm.
cheat.
right.
yeah. You know, like the first few years of your life that you don't remember as a like pre-toddler, I bet that's probably like an acid trip. That's probably why you don't remember it. Like all this wash of just incoming data that you don't know how to really process yet. Your brain's just like, everything's just like fucking kaleidoscope rainbow shit probably, right? Like if you could remember it, it would probably be psychedelic. I would bet. Sorry. I'm smoking weed this whole time.
Yeah. Man, I've been seeing like YouTube videos of like a 7-year-old girl like handling firearms, and she's like one of the best shots I've seen, and she's also really mature in her demeanor as well too. So it's just like, well, how is this 7-year-old so mature? Then people would say, oh, it's the parents that raised the kid, but I mean, it's got to be more than that. Like just the way, like most
Are you talking
7-year-olds.
about reincarnation?
Yeah, that is a theory. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering where this. Yeah, I felt like I didn't smoke that much weed. I was like, what?
No, John is on a hard journey right now of self-discovery. I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, it's necessary.
It makes you who you are, right? Like the whole thing, what I was talking about before about, enlightenment as an idea. Once you become synchronized to the idea, you become,
Mhm.
obviously you need to go along with the usual traditional methods, blah, blah, blah. But there is a metaphysical aesthetic. And all I'm saying is you have to commit to a supreme metaphysical aesthetic, i.e. that ideas originate extra physically. The origin of
Mhm.
ideas is not the physical realm. It's the metaphysical realm.
Right.
So every single thing was
I-
discovered.
I
Nothing.
agree with that.
I just have a hard time with the Abrahamic idea of heaven. It's just like, okay,
Me too. Me
so-
too. I'm not even gonna go
Well,
there.
that's what it is, John, is a misconstruction of the ideal realm. So do you understand what I'm talking about, John, with the ideal realm and the periodic table and the spheres? You understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I got some. It's clicking. It's clicking a little
There's
bit.
a
Yeah.
there's a separate reality that dictates this reality. It's composed of pure forms. So out there's personality archetypes too. There's a supreme Gandalf personality archetype, and the Gandalf in this reality is like a cheap imitation of that grand supreme Gandalf. And the reason we look at things that way is because that's a way to make you incentivize towards self-improvement, because you're always going towards a better version of yourself. Is it true? Well, it's like, what's true?
You make it up, so it's true.
Well,
exactly. You can make your arm move this way, so you can make your mind move certain ways, right?
Yeah.
And your mind moves your body, right? Supposedly. So.
Well, sure, and it's a question of first cause, and ultimately, we just have to agree that the first cause for archetypes is supermaterial, which is the problem with modern science, is because evolution doesn't say that. It says it comes from random permutations of physicality. What is, why am I the way I am? Oh, random DNA. That's the answer. I mean, it's like, that's not going to be enough, is it?
I don't think that necessarily that the souls necessarily have to
They're subject to the same physical laws as everything else, though.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that they don't. It doesn't necessarily like since reincarnation, in my belief, I guess anyway, or my aesthetic that I flirt with, I like to think that like, you know, all through that, all forms of life are involved in that. Are you subscribing to that?
Well, sure, there's conservation of energy. So
Yeah.
you would have, conservation of energy, and you have a mechanism for new life as well when you have cell division,
Exactly,
right?
but and like karma and where you reincarnate, this also can explain the philosophical descriptions of heaven and hell too, where you wind up in
Well,
your
like
next
I think
incarnation.
there's a divergence, right? The one is that you can confuse the ideal realm with heaven. So you understand that the ideal realm is more of a mathematical construct, right? It's not
Yeah.
heaven, right? Well, you could say it's heaven, but it's like, well, that's a pretty weird idea about heaven, isn't it?
Mhm.
What do you think,
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, like this idea is this like everlasting bliss.
And
It's
there's
kind of
also
like
enlightenment.
you get bored after a while. Be like,
Well,
okay,
there's
yeah, like
enlightenment too. The everlasting bliss, that's enlightenment. So it is possible to get enlightened, but you don't get bored because you can transcend boredom. Because you can
Yeah,
find
exactly.
ways
If you're
to amuse
enlightened, there's
yourself.
no bored anymore. Bored doesn't exist anymore.
yeah, you could always find stuff. Yeah.
So I think that in a lot of ways, enlightenment is inconceivable to an unenlightened person, but you have to try because
But
the
I think that
process of
enlightenment
trying.
wouldn't enlightenment serve to be that means that you're purified enough that shouldn't you be able to incarnate in a potential to be a good example person or a helpful person in the
It's
world
like
that's
you
hell for
could like
someone else?
practice discernment
Like that
between.
karmically that makes sense, no? That like if you're so-called enlightened, then you're in a position in this world now to help people who are in peril, That's where you incarnate into. You're the helpful people. You're the reasonable people of the world,
Yeah,
The good souls on earth.
you can
That's what it
discern
is.
information.
Because if it's always conservation of whatever and energy, and you're all learning, it's a progression. Why wouldn't you want to transcending all knowledge? Wouldn't sharing it eventually? You're learning, so now you start, and then you get born to be a good person. You don't know you're enlightened. You just get to be a good person who's helpful, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't.
It's not like it's not a big ego trip like, oh, I'm enlightened, I'm the next Gandhi and
Yeah, exactly.
all this
Exactly.
shit. It's just like I
Your
use
soul
the
has to
term
go through
discernible.
all the stages. Your soul has to experience all the stages, I guess, and learning, and then you get to teach or help, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I went through a
Yeah, well,
temporary
you can discern
de-enlightenment.
information.
I
Yeah.
went through a temporary de-enlightenment because if I didn't do that, then relating to your state of mind would be hard or impossible, probably.
What do you mean?
Yeah, Jen, I'd have to say, explaining your explanation of your theory has actually improved a lot.
Oh,
To
thanks.
where-
Maybe, but
yeah.
John, maybe it's you that's improved.
Well, that too, yeah. There's a combination of both.
Maybe it's more on you than on me because, I don't change that much.
Well, the more you articulate stuff, the better you generally get at articulating stuff.
That's true.
Oh, who
Yeah.
the fuck is this? Who the fuck is this person who wants to come on? Is anyone who? I don't want to let
What's-
this person on.
What's,
I'm just not even gonna take
oh,
a chance.
Is it
If
Claire?
somebody wants to come on, put it in the chat. We'll think about it. I don't want this. This has been such a good conversation. I don't want to make it in a bad tone now. But yeah,
Like to
thanks for
welcome
saying my
Gandalf to
thing
the floor.
is better. Oh yeah, hey Gandalf.
Is he there?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, going through some stuff.
I see you have the avatar of Dr. Kevin Barrett. Wasn't he like a twoofer, a 9/11 twoofer? I think of some kind. Way back when.
Yeah, I haven't been following too much lately, but yeah, he goes into like the deep state operatives, and I know he's kind of like a Chris Hedges kind of left wing angle on politics. I find anyway.
Yeah,
He also talked with E. Michael Jones too.
he does.
Well, he had a talk with him anyway.
Yeah, we were talking in our streaming circles about E. Michael Jones's completely getting just flattened by Christopher John Bjorkness. I mean, it was this is maybe about 2-3 months ago, and it was pretty bad. I mean, E. Michael Jones just was screaming, "It's preposterous! It's preposterous!" And Jen made a funny meme about it that just had me laughing for a day or two. It's very, very interesting. It's just
He's the guy that keeps talking about logos.
logos.
Like logos this, logos that. Yeah, that's really annoying.
Isn't that guy that looks like Bill Nye the Science Guy?
Yeah, that guy.
That's a weirdo.
Yeah, he does without the glasses though.
Yeah. He's like a slightly ruder Bill Nye the Science Guy. Actually, Bill Nye the Science Guy is pretty fucking rude. So never mind. I take that back.
Oh, Bill, Bill Nye has gotten to be when he signed up and became, a climate change cult person.
Oh, just a ghoul. He turned right into a ghoul, and he even looks like a ghoul instantly. Bam.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I loved Bill Nye the Science Guy. He used to come on at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. I would always watch it.
Me too, man.
And when he kind of joined up with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they all became buddies with Obama or whatever, they just turned into just real ass clowns. I mean, because
you notice why? Because they continued to talk to our generation as if we were in Arrested Development and we were still kind of pre-teenagers. They still talk to you with that little kid show act like that. They still try to talk to grown adults about serious things in a tone that is so fucking patronizing and fucking like it's grotesque. And everyone should see it. That's all. God damn it.
Didn't he do like a video on like transgenderism, like it's okay to transition or something like that? He did like a music video like 5 years ago or something.
Yes, he did. And some woman named Sarah Bloom was singing with him, and it was quite literally, I think I'd rather subject people to having like cats scratching a chalkboard or hearing rabbits being killed or something. That might have been like more pleasurable to the ear than hearing that. That was one of the worst things I've ever heard of performances of anything I've ever heard. I mean, I'm trying to think of something so awful sounding to compare.
I think hearing rabbits be killed would be rather quiet. They're quite quiet.
Oh, I'm just trying to think of something.
I know.
For a metaphorical purpose, but yeah. It's just interesting how just pathetic scientific communication is. I mean,
well, these are pseudo. This is what's happened is like these are pseudoscientific showmen and orators, and they've hijacked the airwaves. That's all. They haven't hijacked the real community, but I mean they're starting to by, for some reason, democratizing the industry, which it shouldn't be democratized in the way they're trying to do it. It's stupid. So yeah, who knows? With a bunch of brainwashed people, who knows what they're going to do?
Yeah, it's just very interesting. When I turn on YouTube, I always get suggestions. One of the things I always get is, Dr. Fauci appearing on all these different shows, and it's amazing. He just changes his opinion all the time, and people follow him as if he's a consistent scientist. It's amazing. It's like, well, he's always changing his opinion. So what's really true? And you ask the people who follow Fauci, and I know people who do, and they can't, and for whatever reason, they just don't notice that that's kind of a problem. It's just it's very interesting. It's like, so
why people have a weird disinterest. It's a very Emperor's New Clothes scenario. And everyone's like, no, the fucking clothes are wicked. Yeah, 4 masks makes sense, dude. I don't know. People don't want their whole ego they don't want their whole worldview to shatter. They don't want to believe that such a big, horrible thing. I think a lot of it is like unconscious defense, fear. I don't know, man. I don't know. Human nature. Instinct.
Yeah, there's no integrity to what they say.
Absolutely not.
Like, maybe like at the beginning, I believed it a little bit.
Integrity that they don't care. They're not trying to prove anything to smart people. They've cultivated stupid people, and they're only talking to them because they know they have enough numbers now. Like that's
Yeah.
all it is. Like they're not trying
They'll
to
tackle
appeal
the
to you
person
anymore.
that actually tries to not wear a
They're not
mask in a
appealing
public
to,
place.
to reason and reality anymore. They don't have to. They only have to appeal to their hysteric masses now. They only have to push the little buttons they've planted everywhere to get people to do whatever.
And I think this is the natural evolution of the I fucking love science cult.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the meme. That's an example of a meme turning into real life anyway. Like blurb blurb science.
Isn't that us
It's
though?
totally like it's Idiocracy. Oh my god. Did you guys see Idiocracy? I hope
Man,
you
it's
guys
the
did.
science.
But
You
aren't
seen the
we
movie
the I
Idiocracy?
fucking love science cult though? Come on, guys.
Yeah, we kind of are, but like we fucking love
Holy
science.
fuck,
but not
guy, give
scientists.
up. Fuck off. Get a fucking life, dude. Fuck.
Yeah.
Made me leave it. There's like 11 people watching. Oh my god. Better come in and ruin the show. Because there's 11 people watching. It's so important. Critically important here.
Jen, when you first were watching, what was when you were a real little kid? Was there any like I don't know scientific program you watched on TV, or
No.
like some nature show that you liked, or some book that you
No.
picked up? Nothing, never
No.
anything like that. What was?
I like Power Rangers. Dun, 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 dun.
I
I had
Ninja
Timmy
Turtles.
Turtles, but I didn't have
Ninja Turtles.
Jason Red Ranger. Like there was like one time I forgot Jason
Oh,
Red
you know
Ranger
what
and I had to
else
go
was
back.
good? Playing
Yeah.
Aladdin. Did you guys ever play Aladdin growing up?
Yeah.
And Cops and Robbers. Okay, Cops and Robbers. And going in the pool and running in a circle to make a giant hurricane.
I like that.
But yeah.
In terms of sitting down and reading a book or watching a show, I don't know, dude. Fucking Beasties, Beast Wars. And I'm Optimus Prime. I feel like a deep connection to Optimus Prime. Like I was just like the eternal Optimus.
Dude, I remember it was like Christmas when the Transformers movie came out, and I went and saw the movie, and the first thing they did is kill Optimus Prime, and everyone in the theater. I wasn't alone. Like tons of kids crying. It was like a weird D-Day scenario memory for me. They killed because they all the toy manufacturers wanted to do was launch the new good guy, and they miscalculated the love children had for their beloved hero Optimus Prime, and when in the first scene of the anticipated Transformers movie they whack him.
Oh, I didn't even know he was dead, but I guess he'll live on forever in the archetype realm. So
Oh yeah,
God bless him.
yeah. God bless Optimus Prime. Indeed. And then God created Optimus Prime.
Looking back at the production values of those shows, I'm thinking Power Rangers. It was just so campy. But when you're a kid, you
and G.I. Joe, though, so much dead frame, so much just total nothing on, like just basically nothing, like the mouth moving, just a still shot of two guys standing there. Watch a G.I. Joe.
Hold on a minute. I have to say something. Dragon Ball Z. That show.
I never got into it. It's a little late. That was a little later for me.
I wasn't into it either.
Pokemon.
My sisters were fucking
Pokemon
obsessed
too. I
with it.
just missed Pokemon.
It was fucking.
I
I wasn't
how
into
could you
it
miss
either. My
Pokemon?
sisters were obsessed with it.
I don't know, how
Pokemon,
old
yeah.
were you guys?
I remember like role playing like different characters at recess at school.
Were you
Like there would
Squirtle?
be the what?
Were you Squirtle?
I remember like no, we were
Charmeleon?
like what was it? What was the guy's name again? The guy with the hat backwards and he had Pokemon with Pikachu with him all the time.
Axe?
Ash, yeah. I was Ash sometimes. Sometimes I'd be Squirtle. Sometimes I'd be Pikachu. And like we would just go around, walk around, and
So
when we
basically
meet
you're
each other,
furry.
like battle. Yeah.
It's okay to be a
Number
furry when you're a kid. There you go.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Number 4-player
It was like grade 4,
007.
yeah.
Huh?
Yo,
What?
I
Four
played
players.
fucking crazy games till like grade 6. I was so sad in grade 7 because it's like there's no more magical games. It's now
Yeah.
people making out behind a friggin' whatever.
Dude,
Yeah.
Mario Kart came out pretty early. That Mario Kart still one of the best. Mario Kart 64, best party game.
Are you talking about
Yeah.
the one that's on a board game?
No.
Or Mario Kart, like the original one that has the
Yeah, the original,
four
the
levels?
64, you could play 4 people. I remember like a buddy's house having a big screen TV and like 4 people like drinking, playing Mario Kart. Great time. 20s, you do that kind of shit.
I
Yeah,
remember playing Star Wars on my Nintendo 64.
I never got into any game like any games like that. I got motion sickness from.
Oh, yeah.
The furthest
I
I
was
could go
big
was
into Halo.
Yeah, Halo, yeah.
Yeah, I don't do any first shooters. I'm only sim racing now, hardcore.
yeah, that's like
Route.
Tetris for men or something. It's like
Well,
Tetris.
Tetris
It's like
is
reverse
Tetris for
Tetris
men,
where you have
too.
to blow off everyone's head.
I remember my mom was like really anti Game Boys and video games and all that stuff.
I wasn't
My-
allowed to watch The Simpsons.
And then the Tetris Turner. Is this a Tetris story?
No, this is a Tetris story. My oldest male
My dad
cousin
was
on my
Turner. He
mom's
hated
side of the
video games.
family bought a Game Boy over with Tetris, showed it to my mom. My mom stayed up and played it the entire night. She couldn't
Dude, my
put
dad
Tetris
too.
down.
My
That's
dad
hilarious.
too, like hated video games, and then as soon as we got Tetris, then my dad would hug the Nintendo and shit, man, for real. We're like, hey, Dad. He's like, no, God, shut. Get all
Like,
mad playing Tetris.
is there a 3-dimensional Tetris?
There's multiple different kinds of Tetris now. Yeah, it's hard to find the actual OG one. A good version of it anyway. For phone.
Well, Tetris is one of those games that does improve your mind. Like it's
it's a puzzle.
Yeah, it's a
It's
puzzle.
a puzzle, and it gets faster and more intense, and yeah, you have to do everything faster and faster, and yeah, you can get it. I think you can if Tetris went to infinity, you could probably get enlightened playing Tetris.
That's quite
that's a
possible.
linear time fallacy.
I know, but I was kidding. Like,
Oh
so
my
much you can
God,
go
but I
enlightened.
appreciated that you said it because it allowed me to come up with this term, linear time fallacy, and it's the perfect description for it.
There you go. Bam, bam.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell snap.
It's the most insidious fallacy because we just really wish time was linear. And we also
Well,
wish ideas were organic.
Well, I think they are organic, though. Still, I think your description still says they're organic. It's just a definition of what you mean by organic, or what I mean by organic.
Yeah.
Because if it comes kind of from a participation symbiosis between outside and inside, that could be defined as organic. It comes from the realm. It comes from God, whatever. That's organic. The universe is organic. You know what I mean? What do you mean by organic?
It was such the wrong choice of word, but I'm glad you called me out on it because precision is the cornerstone of success.
We're understanding anyhow, right?
Well, you have to be confident in what it's saying, and that requires some amount of self-inquiry. It's like, do I actually believe this? Some people they're really just validating their existing beliefs, but other people, not so sure.
I also think English kind of sucks as a precision language. I mean, there is one of my maybe
it's
this
just easy to be imprecise. That's all. Yeah.
Well, I think probably we did the list of we did a stream a while back on like the 20 greatest European scientists, and like 17 of them were like German or Dutch or stuff like that. I think 17 were German. Like there's one Dutch, one Englishman.
It was
maybe
like
a Slav.
6 that were German and Austrian out of maybe 17 or 18. But if you count like Greater Germanic, yeah, it would be more than
Yeah, I
half.
think-
But
Yeah, but German and his language itself, mean, more than much more than English, because it's not a Romance language. You could just have like, you could put chains of words together to get very precise and deep concepts together, which you cannot do in English. Like culture war, for instance.
You can't do brevity in English.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't English technically
what
also
English
a
can't
romantic
do.
language?
Conversant brevity. It is an obstruction to intimacy. That's what English can't do. English is actually the most precise language because it has the most words.
That's why it's easy.
It's hard to explain metaphysics in the English.
It's easier to
But John,
emote and
I
take
did it.
shortcuts.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not impossible, but
It's just
What you're
easier
other
saying
to
languages
use.
are-
metaphysics is built into French in a way it's not built into English.
right.
Yeah, like
Well, I
the
see.
concept of masculine, feminine, and
It's the
quantities built in.
Yeah, there is a logic to conjugating verbs.
Hmm.
Il faut penser avant
Yeah, the
parler.
tenses,
En français. C'est pas
La
vraiment
rouge
possible.
de viol.
En anglais, tu peux juste commencer à parler sans vraiment savoir ce que tu vas dire. Yeah, it's not the same in French though. So it's like you got to be more careful, which is like because like English is the highest entropy language, so it has most microstates. So your hypothetical precision is maximized. So you could theoretically be super precise, but what you're not going to have simultaneous to this hyper precision is a bunch of people sitting around you being like, "Oh yeah, totally, dude, I get it," because there's no like the English culture is not conducive to a certain type of communication, i.e., camaraderie or whatever you want to call it. Very cold language.
Maybe that's why there's like a richness to like I know I have problems with this philosophy, but there's a richness to like someone like Martin Heidegger that's totally lost when he's translated into English, because like there's all these chains of words that you can create with German that reflect kind of large concepts that you can't quite do in English.
Well, we
Like,
do that all the time in English. Because those chains of words are often things that refer to events. Like we say 9/11, and it means a whole thing. If you just translate 9/11 without context, it's just a number. Or like if we say like Auschwitz, it carries other implications. And in other languages, other strings of I think that's just in the deciphering. Yeah, you need to be nuanced and actually know when someone says if they mean is it an employee or is it a slave or is it a servant? Yeah, because translating can be really clunky, I guess you're saying. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Language is just a very funny thing. It's remarkable that, if you were an alien and had no concept of language as humans understood it. I'm just trying a thought experiment. Maybe it's a shitty one. I don't know. But, we just say just a bunch of clickety-clack sounds, and somehow magically within people that at least share an understanding of a language and perhaps some context in which that language is used culturally, that two or more people are able to develop.
Well, yeah, if you look at each word like an idea, each word is like an individual separate fishing rod, like we were talking about before. So it develops over time into a perfect or better fishing rod. But like each word is an idea. It's an idea too, just like every other invented idea, wherever they came from. So each word is an idea. We use them. We got better at clickety-clacking, and our fishing rods got better, and our clickety-clacks got more articulate. And right, like.
But to an outsider unfamiliar with a language, or even unfamiliar with human communication, to assume if they're an alien or something. The clickety clacks are just sounds. Yep. And to some degree, they just are on a certain plane. we're
Well,
just
they're
making
cryptic.
noises.
It's cryptic bits of information. Like it's only information because two parties agree on that it means something. That's what defines it as information. Otherwise, it is just arbitrary clickety clacks. But we've agreed on what they mean. So to us, it's information. To anyone who doesn't know what the third party, what we're agreeing on, it isn't anything else. That's totally cryptic. Like language is by definition cryptic. Yeah, we've invented it all.
Language is not cryptic in the biological sense. So we want to be careful when we say cryptic. What we're referring
cryptic
to.
is in we've encrypted meaning to code the sounds we're making. Like I mean it literally. Like I mean like we're coding the clickety clack into very complex concepts and meanings.
They're vocalized renditions of ideas mostly.
But what does cryptic mean? It's a code.
Crypsis means presenting as something other than what you actually are in order for some environmental benefit to be derived.
Well, so if I say I'm smoking a joule, when I say a joule,
okay, I get it. You can do that, but I'm just saying you got to be precise because if we're going to be describing the same thing,
yeah, okay. Well,
you got to be consistent. I'm sorry to be pedantic. I'm just saying that crypsis is one thing. So when something is cryptic, what it implies is that something is emulating something else due to energetic possibility. Like, for example, a wasp looks like a bee because the wasp is occupying the same
Okay, yeah, that's a different definition. Yeah, okay.
No, that is the definition. That's the only definition we want to use. We want to stick to just one. And if you want to say something else, like you can say encryption.
Okay, well, a
but it's got to apply.
Doing that to trick you, but I'm doing it to communicate with you. So we're all it is doing the same thing. It's trying to communicate you to stay away or to think something. I'm trying to communicate to you to think something or hear what I'm saying. So it is the same thing. It's cryptic. It is cryptic in the same way.
Decrypting. It's if you're going to go by the computer definition of encryption and decryption, it's decrypting.
Okay, fine. Perfect.
It's like how it's what you're saying is, can you decrypt for me your wave, an approximation to your wave function at this time, please? Can you?
No, keep it at this tem. That's the new quote. At this tem, I cannot be of help. I am busy at this tem. Keep that one. I am not sure about that at this tem. Fuck. In court, that's the best. In court at this time.
Oh yeah. Like, what if you leave something up for interpretation? How would that play out in the court of law?
You always are, though, kind of, in a philosophical kind of way. You're always leaving it up for interpretation or hoping someone will interpret the way you want them to.
Right.
You know, we're striving to communicate. We're not actually communicating. We're approximating communication. We're getting close. We're getting there.
No, we are effectuating communication. It's just not clear that what we think communication is actually what it is. Our conception of what
do I see the same red as you? Do you see the same red and green? No, like that's
physically, it's most likely that we all perceive the colors more or less the same. Like there are exceptions, like some people have, special vision or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is more reasonable to assume that when you're like trying to ballpark someone else's state of mind, that's going to be riddled with your own projection.
Right.
No matter who you are. It really doesn't matter who you are because it's a I would say almost entirely subconscious process. The projection.
Interesting.
Well, when you talk about interpretation and language, the first time I think the height of the absurdity of the ability to try and draw interpretation out of language might have been when Bill Clinton told Kenneth Starr at the deposition, it depends upon what the meaning of the word is.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like I remembered that happening as a Saturday Night Live sketch, but that was real, wasn't it? God damn it!
It was. I mean, I
it's one of those things that you think that you remember it from a parody, but oh no, that was.
Well,
real.
that depends on what your definition of real is.
Right? Yeah. Just picture our memories 10 years from now. Like, was that real or was that a joke? Like, it's going to be very hard to decipher the fog of
People
this.
think Battlestar Galactica is history.
Oh, man. What, the first one or the second one?
The one where they're on ships and going to
But, like,
planets.
not the 70s one. You're talking about the more contemporary one?
I'm talking about the old one. With them
'cause I don't
coming
know.
from some butterfly star child planet or some shit.
Oh, yeah, the super hippie one. Yeah, terrible.
Well, there's history of this happening. You remember, when Way of the I think it was when they did War of the Worlds.
Yeah. People freaked out.
Everyone freaked out, and they had to do the government had to interrupt the broadcast and do a special PSA. And there was already a lot of war fervor because this was in 1939 with
We can
Nazis.
speculate they've been fucking with us forever, and I think they have, and that's just like that's what I'm saying with the aliens thing. Like they're not gonna pull it off until they can fake it. So now, look, they got all this cool tech. Like you saw, like while you were social distancing and staying at home for New Year's Eve, you were watching this augmented reality shit on TV that they're training you to watch forever now. And now they're gonna pull out some fucking fake CG graphics, and it's gonna be super fake probably. And like the future historians go, man, some people believe this. Like it's gonna be whack when they do it for sure too. You know what I mean? Like they can't. No one can really fake it good, perfect. Sorry, it's not gonna be perfect. It's gonna suck. That would be my alien conclusion if there's an alien scenario that plays out. It's them and they suck and it's shitty and really corny and it's gonna be really dated in the future, like all their other dumb dated shit. Yeah.
Shitty and corny aliens. Okay, watch out.
We got the shitty aliens here. Yeah,
they suck. They're gonna suck. They're gonna be really stupid. They're gonna be really stupid. They're gonna be really Hollywood looking.
Well, just what's really interesting is just in the last, even pre-COVID, they were starting to move this direction, but certainly in 2020, it's no longer considered to be some sort of fringe belief to believe in aliens, because like it seems like every month or so there's a story coming with some sort of government whistleblower claiming that they have scientific evidence that aliens were here, or we can prove that aliens exist somewhere out there. It's kind of just interesting to see how like the zeitgeist on aliens just in the last 2-3 years.
I think that's motivated by them knowing they have the technology to fake it now, so they can push this a little bit more. Like they just want to do it as a trick. It always was a dumb idea for a trick, probably. The whole alien idea from the beginnings of the science fiction radio era till now, it was always a little seed planted that maybe we'll use this later at some point. Do you put stuff past people? Of course not. You shouldn't. People are real sneaky. They like to do sneaky shit. They like to fucking get one over on other people. That's kind of what we've been like evolving and getting better at. If we're evolving and getting better at anything, it's definitely tricking other people.
Well, the theory, like I guess maybe the positive that can come out of this alien thing is that it gives you a different perspective other than like the conditioned perspective of human history where it was just Adam and Eve. It gives you like a different angle. It goes back even further than Adam and Eve
are concepts too, though. It's a simplified version of the story. Like like how you get there's Santa Claus when you're a kid, and it's to teach you how to be not to be nice and not naughty. It's like training wheels for the idea of the Christianity, the way I understand it, and I have I'm a Christian sympathizer because my relatives, like my family, were Mennonites that escaped religious persecution and stuff. So these are philosophic ideas packaged for masses. So yes, it can be used and has been used for over history for control and stuff. But the good that's in there is real, and these are concepts. They're not literal people all the time. It's parables. It's parables. It's like.
But I mean,
Where was the boy who cried wolf? We found his shroud. The boy who cried wolf's shroud. What color was he? White? The boy who cried wolf? Like these are irrelevant things. The story's true because it's true. We don't need the boy who cried wolf skeleton or shroud of the boy who cried wolf. Like you know what I mean? Like the meaning is
Yeah,
embedded without.
the thing is though, so we have a conception, like this is the mainstream conception, is that civilization, we were taught in school that it started in Samaria, and then they had the Babylonian empires. Maybe I'm getting this wrong. They had the Babylonian empires, and then from there they had some various other empires, and then they had eventually had the Roman Empire, and then that's when that's when Jesus came, and all the different prophets of Abraham as well too came, and then basically that's where our conception of history comes from. But with this, it goes well. There's also lost cities underneath the ocean as well too in Japan. I'm not saying like it was an alien civilization or anything like that, but it's just like it gives you a different perspective in that there's people who were here before, we were working at the wheel or working at the fishing rod, and then we just magically appeared.
It's possible it happened a couple times. Because obviously the pyramids are pretty old. And
well, there has been civilizations before what we know as civilization.
Lost cities right beneath your feet, man. There's lost cities right beneath your feet where there's no trace of them. Like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's almost, that doesn't add to anything. Like, yes, we have a large chunk of unknown and we're trying to put the pieces together. Speculating further past the pieces we have isn't helpful, I don't think, Like that's would be my, with the aliens, with the ancient gods, even. Like, I think the history part of, like, more recently, super indoctrinating, yes, but I mean, I think that for the most part, like up until the 60s, we were just trying to figure shit out. Like, like we thought with the Enlightenment, blah 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 blah, the stuff, like, conflict all over the world, sure, but I don't know. Atlantis, I don't know, unnecessary. It's a cool.
I mean, there's definitely information that we could, we can gather from these cities before,
Yeah. I think we should.
The idea that we're the only civilization is not necessarily true.
We're the only civilization that's fully split completely in such a large way where we don't, like, remember even like our parents' generation, like all the kids' songs, everything was about farms. Like, we weren't super divorced from agricultural life. Like, everyone sort of still knew the cost of everything and what civilization meant and the muscular labor that required to sustain it. Now people in cities are totally divorced from that. They scoff at forklift operators and fucking this and that, and people who are actually keeping the world together. And there's a class of, academic, anointed that think they know better than the people who are actually keeping the lights on. You know what I mean? And so we've been divorced from that. The problem isn't to look to other cultures. We need to look to our own past and to our own culture and understand what we're doing, because we've divorced ourselves from our past is the real problem. We're rootless. We want to tear down statues, and this is, we need to re-engage with, I think that there's been a mistranslation of generational knowledge. We didn't appreciate it or something. We didn't learn it. We didn't pay attention. We'd rather listen to punk rock and go skateboarding and shit. Like, somehow we lost it, and it doesn't take long to lose something like that. And, it's like wholesome stuff is what we should be striving for. That's, and the good that comes from wholesome love in societies is real, and it's possible. And, religion was an attempt at a hack at showing people the basic tenets of that, and like, see, do this, do that, like, basic guardrails, that's all it was, and then of course different kings take this and fucking, make it their own little thing. Look what the government's doing right now. They're trying to turn science into this thing that means, because science, stay home, fucking put a bag on your head and jump in the river because science, like, you know what I mean? Like,
but here's, like, I was just thinking about just kind of the current hysterical age in which we're living in. There is a benefit. I was in downtown Chicago today, going to, I just was there briefly, and everything is just kind of empty and boarded up, and everyone signed up to just have the city shut down. I mean, just the mass hysteria caused it. And I think for the people that remain, just watching how quickly just a vibrant metropolis with lots of activity turned into an absolute ghost town, brings pause to just how fragile all this stuff is. And we treat it like, oh, we can do anything we want and there's no consequences. And
it's like what Bon Jovi said. We're living on a prayer.
Yeah. But for those who really have been introspective as that has happened, and or gotten out of being, living in those city centers, I think there's kind of this opportunity, should those people decide to take it, to just, if they can divorce themselves from at least the highest concentrations of crazy people, what Z-Man calls the branch Covidians, for to bring a cult type of metaphor to it. I think there's a chance for people to connect with a slower paced, more organic kind of living. And I think there are some positive. There's some
but I also
positive
think
things that could come out of it.
From a real societal strategic point of view, we also need to, and from a real geopolitical point of view, we also need to hold our cities and hold our towns also. So we can't just abandon the cities either, right? Like, that's not practical really in the end
cities
either.
are not much good when nobody has any will to live. So remedy
I know.
don't want to live part first.
We're gonna be easier to single out all in the country. That's kind of part of the plan too. They like to disperse you, and then they can just snipe you. Pew pew. They want to thin you out a bit.
Space lasers.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I think it's all. Anyway, I don't know. This
Trump
all
Space
has to
Force.
end in the
See
courts.
how hard it is to keep the conversation on track and how easily it gets derailed. People need to make a conscious effort too.
These are very derailing times.
Well, it's interesting also.
No, it's not.
About just kind of,
it's not.
Well, what's also interesting, just noticing and I think this has something to do with just this particular kind of era in consciousness. It used to be, debates about political and social reform were about issues and budgets, and now it's not even about competing tribes necessarily, but it's now about competing sort of religious apocalypse. Religious apocalypse. Yeah, at this point, you have
turn politics into team sports. You score on your own net, and that's what you're seeing. A bunch of people scoring on their own net, and they're being bewildered at what they're doing. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Really, you know what I mean? It's a weird, it's like they're in shock, doing these dumb things.
I think there's something going on with dissonance right now that's causing this. And I can't, my thinking on it is just sort of observational at this point, and I haven't done any real meta-analysis. I need to really think about it, but it's, I think that there's some sort of break that's happened at some level, a little deeper than normal conscious awareness, and it's causing people to do things like, score in their own goal. I mean, you just see this.
That's because they've already made it a team sport, though. So if you
I don't know, Gannon.
At all costs,
sounds like you're talking about a curse.
And they lose. If you cheer, if you've already picked,
I'm talking about a curse.
It almost sounds like a curse, doesn't it?
It really does. I think the land is. I think our civilization definitely does seem cursed.
I mean, I think it's because of, like I told you a million times, but I think it needs to sink into everybody. Is the the Pythagorean LARP thing of him making up a religion, which took away glory from the Vedic religion. I think that's where the curse is coming from. Because there's this other thing. I don't know if I got a chance to talk to you about it, but it was like an ancient Indian prophecy about basically predicting Mohammedism.
Oh,
and
really?
Apparently that religion has a blessing of Brahma. So I think the combination of that religion having a blessing of Brahma, and according to the text anyway, and that, and plus the curse is making the self-destruction inevitable. There's just only, there's a conservation of karma, right? And when you put so much badness out there, it eventually comes back.
Depends on what you mean by curse, though.
It's where, okay, so do you agree about the quantum mind?
I don't understand that's another thing I don't understand fully. But I mean, I intuitively, the stuff I did hear you, the streams I did hear you talk about it, I feel like I agree with it. Yes.
Consciousness is entangled photons generated by the trapping of light into biological organisms.
Okay, see, that's physics, mechanical stuff that I'm not going to grasp. But philosophically, can you give it to me?
Yeah, so the idea is that the basis of all that is spheres that are expanding and contracting due to electromagnetic reasons. Because the primary impulse is to expand for a photon. A free photon just expands, but a photon can get trapped between fermions, protons, neutrons.
These are photons in the brain right now.
I'm talking about the generic entity known as the photon. It just wants to perpetually expand.
Okay.
So we're talking about what is causality, right? So it's essentially a matrix of fermions and a supermatrix of expanding photons that is sort of pumping because it's cycling around itself, right? Ultimately, it's constrained by gravity, so it's always kind of coming back. So it's perpetually sort of I don't want to say self-creating, but self-sustaining. A curse is just simply a rearrangement of that array by a sufficiently trained person.
Okay, so it's a mechanical cause then.
It's a photonic cause.
Okay, but it's manipulating physical things. I mean, that's what I mean by mechanically. That's what I'm defining.
It's manipulating photons, which eventually manipulates fermions. So depending on what level the curse is, it's some are easier to break, some are harder to break. But
I don't know. I find that the curse road feels a speculative road. I know what you're saying, but I don't.
If people don't realize they're under a curse, they have zero chance of breaking it.
No, but your quantum, your like consciousness and the brain being a quantum computer, being photons and
the
stuff.
Brain, not the brain, the mind.
The mind. Sorry, yeah, but I'm not grasping how you got that conclusion.
Because it's the only possible explanation that makes the predictions.
No, but you still are making a jump across the hard question a bit with it, and it's a leap of faith.
We're eventually going to get to answering the hard question, but before we can do that,
I mean, I'm
we
saying
have to
agree on your view does require a leap of faith, though.
Why? It's more of a leap of faith to deny what I'm saying. My view has evidence. There is proof of a biomagnetic field.
But why does that? How do you know? You know what I mean? It's like
So
saying
I think
capable of centralizing the information. It's the only entity in the body capable of centralizing the information.
Can I explain what I don't understand? Can I explain what I don't understand? What I don't understand is that it seems to me that what you're doing is, like, I'll use a radio as an analogy, okay?
I get it. I understand you're saying maybe this is a bad analogy, and I'm saying, no, this is really how it works.
Let me flesh out my question so I understand you. I'm explaining you what I don't understand. So my example, to explain to you what I don't understand, is that it seems to me that you have a radio in front of you, and you're explaining to me that the circuits you're showing me that you have evidence for are explaining the signal coming on over the waves. But you're not, like, you know what I mean? The waves are coming still from somewhere else, the radio waves that we're tuned into, and you're pointing at all the capacitors and stuff inside the radio and saying this is proof of this signal coming from in here.
Well, we talked about the ultimate origin. We agreed before that the ultimate origin of ideas was metaphysical and eternal.
So then when you say quantum computer, it's an aesthetic choice. You could say quantum radio, tuning into consciousness.
No, I could not. Could you? I couldn't. No, I couldn't quantum radio because it has to compute.
But okay, fair enough. But I mean, is it computing? Is your quantum computer computing information coming from somewhere else, that the other realm, right?
No, the information is intrinsic, yes, and the only information is the measurement limit. That's the hard part.
Then yes.
Information. All the other
And
information
yes,
is ultimately derivative of that very basis, sort of
Jen, I was
trivial.
just trying to agree on your quantum computer, and I agree now. I wanted to understand what I didn't understand, and going through that made me understand, and I agree.
Cool. So yeah, basically like photonics is like this, giant sphere mechanism of like breathing, heaving, expanding and contracting spheres, and the curses are on that level. You just be like manipulating that, but it's not a recommended thing to do, but it's
But
definitely
you
something
could call it a curse, or could you call it malware also? Could you call it malware?
you can call it curse malware, but it's not
I
really
know, but
malware.
if
It's
it's
more
if
like
the brain is a quantum computer, why wouldn't
okay,
we use the word malware?
that you're you're
Curse
reformatting
sounds.
you're reformatting the Akashic record. Okay, you're reformatting it.
See, I like that you used reformatting.
So that would be the appropriate word.
Yes.
So it's biological, right? So it's not a literal computer the way we understand a computer. The computer
No,
is
I
embedded.
know. But for analogy's sake, I'm just in this playing along with the same analogy. Instead of using the word curse, that sounds all spooky and mystical, you could say.
So instead, I should say,
like a hack.
okay, they've reformatted the Akashic record, and therefore,
a virus. I got a computer virus. I was implanted with a computer virus.
Okay, guys, this is what's wrong. I'm a virus. Okay, don't ask me any more questions. Fuck off. Okay, seriously. That's the new line.
Here, I'll take a shot at it. Maybe a bit. I won't ask Jen a question, but I'll take a shot at it. Maybe clear things up a little bit. So there is a report about. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was about right-wing activity on YouTube, and basically it was a report, and one of the guys who did the report was Rothschild, and basically they had like a list of like how many people had problematic views. It was just like Steven Crowder, Millennial Woes, and all those YouTubers, and they had basically had a math equation as to how these people formulate into these communities and have their values
Sounds like you're looking at the wrong
real
equation.
world.
Their equation was, we don't like these guys. And then they ran, and then they tried to pick up sticks and came up with that one to tell everybody. Their
Right,
actual
and like
equation
the
was,
thing is
these
like,
guys.
because when you're on the enemy's platform, is just like once you try to do something that's against their interest, they're gonna shut you off. It's like, it's like text censorship. It's like like if anything that could sway consciousness or the narrative to another direction.
They're doing
the
obviously
basically
what
it's just
instinctively they'll do, though. They're the propaganda arm cozying up to the government now in this new fucking shit. They're on the inside. They're not who they say they are at all. Like if you think they're telling the news, they're not bad at the news. They're good at propaganda. Well, they're shitty at it, but that's what they're doing. They're doing what they're expected to do. It's not surprising. I don't think it's it should be obvious that this is they're doing
and
that
then
because
it's not just that, it's also the government as well too. Like the government
exactly.
like
You're
operates
going to
off
be a
of
government that wants to take
like
over
an
and have a media
NPC.
complex. Obviously, you're going to have them. You're going to do that.
Yeah, like
if you're
the
going to
media and the
invade a
government.
territory, you're going to do that. You're going to take them over. Like that's obviously what they're doing.
Yeah,
and that's So that's why they're doing it, because it's an obvious tactical move.
Yeah.
Good on them. Smart move.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just basically like, well, people can disagree with it all they want, but when push comes to shove, they're probably most of them are probably going to comply to their agenda. Like it doesn't even matter at this point of how much they disagree with it.
Oh yeah, like the
it
only reason
matters.
they're trying to pull this shit off is because they think that, like, you have to understand that they're talking about models with everything. They have models. The other people have models too, and they know that they have a numbers that they knew with all their little phishing algorithms and social media algorithms how stupid people were, and they knew to a degree what they could get away with, and they knew that now's the time they can pull shit like this off. So they click go. They had two buttons in front of them, wait or go, and they're like, yeah, it's time, go. That's all.
Yeah.
And then they're all like lockstepping into order. Just okay, this is what we do now. It's obvious what they're doing. It's not, I don't know.
But I feel like they kind of got caught offhand though.
Once
like what
again,
happened
I really don't want this show to get derailed. And this has really nothing to do with stuff I want to talk about.
Fair enough. Very derailing time.
So maybe it's a good time to wrap up. Maybe people are a little tired. I'm a little tired. Looks like
Yeah,
we're on
I gotta
almost
get
7
to bed. I
hours.
gotta work in the morning.
Yeah,
but
I gotta
nice
get to
nice to meet you all and talk to you all.
Hopefully we can
Fun,
do this
fun.
again sometime because I had a lot of fun. And does anyone have any last
Absolutely.
words?
Well,
All right, guys, follow me on Instagram, Masturbate on Instagram.
Yeah.
thanks for having me on. And but Dr. Kevin B, I recognize you now.
It's
like
John Vance.
John Vance. Sorry.
Did you actually think I was Dr. Kevin B?
I don't know. I'm tired, so it's like, okay, this is John Vance, and it's like, wow, I don't know. You've turned like a new leaf. Like, I don't know. You're just like,
yeah, I've been through some stuff.
You're bringing such a good energy. It's really amazing.
All right,
Yeah,
guys,
I know.
I'm gonna sign off. Nice talking to y'all.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna stay watching though, so don't talk too much shit about me.
I just wanted to say I'm getting tired. Thanks for the wonderful conversation. This is just it's really refreshing to have streams where people ask good questions, and there's a good back and forth and polite conversation. It's I think in a strange sense, this kind of mass hysteria, shut everything down kind of world we're living in is strangely opening up new spaces for people to explore things on deeper levels. And I think there's lots of opportunities to take advantage of that. And streams like this are a sign that maybe things are moving in that direction. So it's a real white pilling thing to go to sleep on. And it's a pleasure to talk to you all, and have a wonderful night. I'm going to sign off, and I'll be chatting back with you all soon.
Thanks again. See everybody later.
All right. I guess I could say last word. Thank you for hosting me, Jen. And know it started off a little bit rough, but I'm glad that I went through it. I think we're going through a transformation right now. I can really feel in my bones that we're definitely entering a new age, and new opportunities will arise, and uncharted territory will be discovered. So
you feel better about my teaching?
Warming, yeah, inching a little bit closer to reincarnation. Let's just say that. I'll just say that. Like I'm skeptical about the.
I mean, reincarnation
heaven,
sucks.
the
I won't deny that reincarnation sucks because it's like scary and shit. I just I think it'd be a little less scary if you expect it. So I'm just trying to be realistic, and I'm glad that you haven't completely.
I find the idea of heaven
it.
kind of scary to begin with and boring. It's like, what? I'm going to sit up in the clouds and stare at Abraham all day? Like, come on.
It just seems a bit inconceivable, doesn't it? When I think of heaven, it's like a permanent orgasm. Eventually you'd be like, make it stop.
yeah, kind of like that.
You'd be like, okay, this was fun for like 45 minutes, okay, but like this is getting fucking retarded. Like I can't make a sandwich. No, I get it. Like I never thought about that particular angle about like what would heaven actually be like, but maybe it is daunting. Maybe just like the idea of eternity is itself just kind of like intimidating. But hey, the universe is.
I think if like the older souls, definitely like that concept is not too daunting. But I guess younger souls, it would be. That's why they need the concept of heaven, so they can feel assured in themselves. That they're going to a better place, or
what we don't want
or
a construct that is holding people back, right?
The what?
We don't want something to hold people back, right?
Right.
So that it's like, people will always construct shortcuts for things to console themselves. But the question is like universally, what's actually going to console you on the level of your actual core self? And I think it's just fully accept, working to accept that you can't change the laws of the universe. They are what they
Yeah.
are. They're
Yeah.
scary, but they're probably like your choices are ultra scary or a little less scary. And it's like it's probably better if you're on a little less scary end, because the ultra scary, all you're doing is denying and denying and denying, and then it ends up making a mountain out of a molehill. It's like
Yeah.
mushrooms in a closet, you know? You got the
Yeah.
mushrooms in the closet, and then you put them in a box, and then the box is full of mushrooms. Then you put it in a bigger box, and then that box is full of mushrooms, and it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it seems like, yeah, I'm just super happy, I guess. I don't have anything else other to say than I'm glad that you've opened the door to reincarnation, because otherwise
Yeah. My imam won't be too.
you're sort of pushing a door closed that wants to open, right? Like you kind of want the possibility to rush in, but you're like, oh my God, what does that mean? It's like universe eternal, too scary, but it's like you can't fight forever. It's just better to just say, yep, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what comes next is like, I I can't know how good life is. Like I feel like life has the potential to be really, really good.
Hmm.
And but I'm not going to make you a false promise as to what's attainable, you know. So
No.
realistic expectations at the end of the day. And
Yeah. I just like, this pandemic kind of opened up my other doors that I didn't really look at too much, I find, because I was kind of like really goal oriented, and then basically, once it was mandatory mask, and I just didn't want to submit to that, and as well I don't want to talk into a dirty mask all day. It's bad for my health. And so I just said, you know what, F it, like I'm not doing this, I'm not complying with this. And it's just like now I'm just kind of, I was used to be like go go go, now it's kind of like I've been kind of had a lot of time to kind of contemplate and like kind of console myself and kind of like think like, okay, what are my values? Like, are these values actually serving me? Or are they actually giving me into slavery and servitude to these hysterical people who basically take spoon-fed government propaganda all the time and don't question anything? It's just like, do I really want to align myself with that, or do I want to go down a different road that might be unknown, might be a little bit scary, but at the same time, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. So it's just like, give me liberty or give me death. So it's like, I'd rather go on the path of uncertain liberty as
there's
opposed
not really
to.
any such thing. There's no such thing as liberty, really. It's not really a thing.
Mm,
There's control. Not liberty and control are similar, but I don't really think
mhm.
liberty is defined, because it's like when you have constraints, you're like, gee, I wish I could be free from these constraints. But the opposite of constraints, I don't think, is liberty. Like maybe we just don't have the capacity to even. It seems like a mirage.
A mirage is liberty as a mirage.
I don't think it is possible to be free, because like identity is defined relative to other people. So you're
Right.
already shackled to other people in terms of your
Hmm.
identity. And I wouldn't say that
Right.
that's a bad thing. I just say like, well, it's a teacher doesn't exist without, like, okay, a student doesn't exist without a teacher. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
everything is like being an, like, you could argue, well, I'm an individualist because I'm so unusual that I stick out. But am I really an individualist? Well, no. I mean, what I know is a result of a collective group of people. I can't
Yeah.
be an individualist. I just stick out in a way because I have an unusual knowledge of stuff, right? But I'm not an
Right.
individualist
Right.
because that doesn't
Yeah. I
exist.
don't necessarily see myself as like an individualist, but just like liberty as like sovereign, you know, like I control what comes in my body, what I control what I wear. And it seems like the world is, there's no integrity to the world now to follow its rules. So I'm just like, okay, am I really going to keep following with this insanity, or am I going to go to this other uncharted path and discover that way, you know?
Not really uncharted. You
Right.
just be in the company of people that you might not have a whole lot in common with, or for a while,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that you can't learn, because everybody's sort of different and everybody has different strengths.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But at the
like,
same time, I just some people are just like they're just too toxic to be around.
well, the thing is that there's quantum resonance, right? So quantum resonance is subject to entropy, and everything always wants to disperse, like with electricity, right? That's why if you put a fork in a socket, the electricity disperses inside you and it hurts. Okay, so everything
Mm.
just always wants to disperse. So that dispersal energy operates on consciousness too. So if someone is in a very low state of consciousness, well, the universe is just basically trying to equalize you. So that's going to feel like a total drag, right?
Right.
So the technique is that you have to basically learn how to pull your consciousness out of the way from the people who are going to be a drag by preparing yourself for it, and basically
Right.
saying like, okay, I'm not going to let you like drain my energy, because I just can't spare the energy on somebody who is not doing any self improvement, right? And clearly,
Right.
you know, it's it's not as often malign as you might think,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's easy to infer a malign intention from other people when it's perceived that they do us wrong. It's not
Right.
usually that. It's usually just carelessness, frankly, indifference,
Right.
not malice.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's definitely a good one. Like, I'm just talking day to day stuff, not the grand
Mm-hmm.
scheme of how everything works in the universe stuff. Just little things,
Yeah.
but like it's the noticing. It's like, yeah, you actually can do something about that. And the sad thing is not being knowing you can do something about it and being shitty at it. The sad thing is that some people just don't even know that it's possible to have any improvement, and so they're just going in a circle, right?
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime someone has a little bit of a improvement to their consciousness, I'm always really happy, because it's like think about how much suffering that you avoided now. You got a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope that's how it
And
feels anyway.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, we'll see how it opens up. I guess it maybe a new career opportunity or something. But yeah.
A new career
Um,
opportunity doing what?
farming maybe. I don't know.
Farming? What do you know
Yeah,
about farming?
a little bit.
Yeah, what do you want to farm? Llamas?
No, vegetables. Like grow vegetables.
You know what I would
Uh,
really love
till
to
the land.
do
Hmm.
is like make a legit apothecary. Like, I used to do a little bit
Okay.
of that back in Ottawa, but like it's basically starting with a garden and then taking like the herbs and stuff and reducing those into tinctures and various balms and salves and other things that you can use like in body rejuvenation and etc.
Oh, okay.
processes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the technical term is apothecary, but I could be wrong there. But basically, that process is like it can take months to make these things, but it's so much fun to sort of care for them and like take care of them. Like, I'm so bad at farming. Like, I even like a tiny little amount of stuff that I tried growing. Like, I always just kill all the plants. I'm too much of the like philosopher, head in the clouds. Like, get caught with
Hmm.
one thought for like 10 hours and be like, oh shit, I just spent all day on a computer program
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
my
I mean,
plants are
I don't know.
dead.
I've always kind of interested in it, but the thing is, like farming, it's really expensive to get into, and it's like really kind of. But I mean, I guess there's always like other opportunities I can go, like with organic farming, but like large scale farming, not necessarily attainable. But um, yeah, I don't know. I looked into it. Like I looked into like hydroponics, like growing like greens.
Oh
Um,
my God, if you do that, I hope you'll show me, because that is so fucking cool. You want to know what one of my friends wanted to do?
what?
Okay, what are they called? Tilapia. Do you know what that is?
Tilapia?
Tilapia
Not
with a P. It's a fish. It's a white fish,
okay.
and basically it's like a bottom feeder. And
Okay.
he wanted to build this aquarium for tilapia set up, because like their poop is like a really good fertilizer, so you can make hydroponics out of tilapia poop. Like you're basically farming tilapia poop for your hydroponic rig. It's crazy. Like,
Okay.
he had this whole setup. Like he was basically saying you could stick a tomato, sorry, a carrot, like just the green part. Okay, you chop the top of a carrot off, okay? And you put
Okay.
it in the substrate and it will grow back a carrot.
Okay.
Like it doesn't even need a
Oh, wow.
plant. I know. Like I don't know if this
Oh,
is real.
okay.
I don't know if this is real or not, but he had his whole fucking plan. He had his
Okay,
whole
I've heard
plan.
of like saving seeds and all that, like the tomatoes and kind of thing like that, where you just kind of just pick it out
I don't know anything about that stuff. But yeah,
yeah.
there's all sorts of stuff you can do.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's like it's pretty hard. It's a full-time job for sure.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like something that probably could work. I just really haven't looked into it. But good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Or just at least grow something that so at least I have something, for myself. But
I
I
have
don't know.
succulents. Succulents make me
Succulent.
really happy.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just like they only need to be watered like very infrequently, once every couple
Mm,
weeks even. So they're
yeah.
pretty low maintenance, but they're so cute. They're like little Cabbage Patch Kids. They're so
Yeah.
cute, but they're just chill, like they're not like these plants that are just going to die in a couple days if you don't obsessively water them.
Hmm.
Is that what you're thinking of, like getting plants? Because if you've never had them,
Yeah, getting
they're hard.
plants or
They're
doing
really hard.
hydroponics and growing greens and like growing peas maybe. Like maybe uh like I don't know if you heard of like Curtis Stone, but he's like a urban farmer and he grows a lot of he has like farms in like cities and he did, but now he's out in the middle of nowhere and he has this like whole like setup now where he's gonna like have this like self-sustaining garden in the middle of the mountains. It's kind of cool. And it's like he built this like big greenhouse and he has like tomatoes in there, and cucumbers, and then he's also growing like squash in the summertime. Um, and yeah, I don't know, like he's just kind of like he's preparing for the shit hits the fan kind of thing. So he's just kind of doing his, and he also talks about like common law and sovereignty law as well too. So kind of looking into that as well. So I don't necessarily want to be a tax slave for the rest of my life, uh, but yeah, I don't know. Look at. Have you heard of
Well,
Curtis Stone?
the best way not to be a tax slave is to operate a business at a loss.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
So you just need to operate a business at a loss. That's really all you need to do. And you won't have to pay tax. It's true, but I
Bunch of
mean,
write-offs. Yeah.
well, yeah, you just operate an unsuccessful business. That's the thing. You actually have to get the business income.
Right. That's one way to look at it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what my professor told me in university. It was my
Mhm.
quantum mechanics professor in protest. He was doing an academic protest that gave everybody an automatic A plus. And that's what he
Oh,
said.
okay.
He said, if you want to not pay taxes, just lose money on your business. And I said, oh, okay.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Find this
I
the
don't know
whole
why you
government.
want to pay taxes in Canada. Canada is extremely rich.
Yeah, there's just no reason for us to be paying taxes to begin. Like, yeah, we're so like it's so sad to seeing all like the oil companies moving out and basically we're not manufacturing anything anymore. We're turning into kind of a consumer economy when we don't really need to be. Yeah, like we need to be self-sufficient. I find more self-sufficient. Know where our food comes from, as opposed to living in the city, selling your soul to a corporation for 40 hours a week and
Well, that's
thinking
the
that's
way
somehow
people have
progress.
chosen to live. Yeah, that's what people want
Yeah.
largely. But it's the problem is that it's not sustainable long
Yeah.
term because of environmental effects. But that's what most
Yeah.
people want. They want to do the least effort, and that has like I used to live in a condo. There's no effort required. Like I did have a nice little setup of plants on my uh balcony there, but it was a condo and I didn't have to do any lawnmower. And most people, they don't want to have to do any work. They just want to sit around all the time.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe
how
looking into
people are.
trades too. Yeah.
So it's like you have to just go against that current if you want to actually get anything done, and that takes
Yeah.
discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But yeah, I mean, for a trade, it's good to have somebody to show you the ropes. I
sure.
wouldn't even know where to start. I'm busy with
But
printing quantum computers or quantum periodic tables. I mean,
yeah, printing 3D printers.
yeah, that's the next step. When we can print a 3D printer, then we'll really be advanced. Then we'll have conscious robots after that. Anyway, my voice is
Oh, did
getting
you see
really
the Boston
tired.
Dynamics video?
I did. I thought it was intriguing. A lot of people it got such a bad reaction. I was like, I didn't even have time to react, and all these other people reacted, so I didn't even react to it because I was like, okay, everyone else has already done it for me.
It's kind of scary. Like, do you think like robots can have like their own consciousness and
Not
then
the
they
way we
could
do,
be
no.
used?
They're not on the way towards that at this time. Because the
That's what everyone's
predecessor,
saying. It's
you'd
like,
have to have sentience to have consciousness, and these robots aren't sentient. So
even with like the moves that they do and all that, like
that has nothing to do with consciousness. A car
oh,
has a lot of mechanical parts. A car is an impressive machine. I mean, the robots, don't get me wrong, the robots are impressive machines, but like that has nothing to do with consciousness. The human body is so much more advanced as a precision machine if you compare it. There's really no comparison. And that's what they're stuck doing. And what this video proves is that they're stuck copying nature because they can't get anywhere near as good. I mean, even when they are copying nature, they still suck, but that they have to use that as a starting point because nothing else we try will work. So, I mean, it's good at doing what it does, but that doesn't equal what you have as your own consciousness and your ability to make decisions. Like you have information centralization. The robot does not have that.
yeah. Interesting take on that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Claire's still stalking me. Claire's still like, I find Claire kind of tedious at this point. Even I'm just kind of annoyed by her. Like, I don't even talk to her that much anymore. Have you
well,
talked to Claire at all?
I don't want to. She's emailed me 2 times in like a couple months being like, you have to unblock me now. It's like, I don't think I will because I don't. Every time I get a message from her, I get a bad feeling, like a really bad feeling. And well, not every time, but it's like there's a lot of unpleasant feelings associated with talking or communicating with her. So it's like, no,
I
I
just feel
can't waste my time.
she's so shallow, like in her analysis. Like she's it's really kind of, it's just like you try to get her to explain her points or her strategy and she just, I don't know, she doesn't really respond to, like she can't have a dialogue like a long dialogue like this. Like it's has to be some sort of script and it has to be some sort of narrative and it always has to be an agenda. It's like
Well,
it's
according
good
to
in a
the
while.
quantum
It's like
mind,
I get that in a while, but at some point it's just like, you know, it gets
well,
old.
according to the quantum mind, everybody has an agenda. Okay, everybody has an
Yeah.
agenda to simulate their own consciousness. So there's essentially a competition between different people simulating their imperatives of consciousness, and that's where the conflict comes from.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah. I just
So
feel like
there's like,
something's just,
it's not an
yeah.
external conspiracy. It's mostly an internal conspiracy. It's mostly your own consciousness that's deceiving you, not externality. Like people, like I said, they're not usually acting out of malice. It's usually just out of cluelessness and indifference. And we infer the malice. We're the ones who see the malice. It's not actually there. You don't really.
Oh,
I
I
don't know.
see. Well, I feel like there's some people that I do interact with. I do feel like genuine malice, like hypocrites,
It's
and
you know, like what you call hatred, like the opposite of joie de vivre, right?
mm,
That is existing on a level that's below the subjectivization. So the
okay.
malice is predominantly self malice, self hatred.
hmm
So if the
So the people that
maliciousness,
are hypocrites,
if the self hatred spills out onto you,
mm,
does that imply that there was an intention to hurt you? It's like no, they just didn't care enough because they don't care about themselves. 'Cause they can't stand themselves. They didn't care enough to take precautions not to have some, you know, overboard, over débordé of their self-loathing onto adjacent people.
okay, that's interesting. Wow, that's a good insight.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean it just
Because I know,
there.
like, it's always just like you have to have mercy on your enemy. Like you always have to say that they hope that they can repent one day, and that you're not supposed to hold a grudge against them, even if you do have conflicting interests.
Well, what you want is
So
to hold beliefs that are good for you, and it's true that
yeah.
holding a grudge is not a good idea, but being an
hmm
idiot and not learning from your mistakes and being deceived a bunch of times is not a good idea either, right? So there has to be some sort of nuance in there where the end
hmm
result is not feeling like a fucking dumbass.
Right.
It's like yeah, that's the whole point of the philosophy is like kind of shake off the previous idiocy and just sort of be like, okay, I'm going to put a limit on the amount of mistakes I'm going to make here because there's just been one too many
hmm
times and I'm annoyed by it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the and
Yeah.
then the biggest mistake, the hardest thing to overcome, it's not really a mistake, but it's like a perceptual bias. The hardest perceptual bias to overcome is projection. And just to realize the extent to which you're kind of alone in the universe and that your own experience is very unique. And we have a coping mechanism of assuming other people more or less feel the same way that we do about reality. And that's not real. That's
Right.
not true. And when we
hmm
realize that that's not true, it's really sad. And it's like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's just like
Yeah.
you get that feeling of giving up on everything.
Yeah.
But you got to realize, well, I take responsibility for that because it was me who had the wrong expectation. I was projecting, and now I'm not going to do that anymore because I felt like a dumbass from doing it.
Yeah.
The thing is that the instinct to project is always going to be there because that's what it is. It's an instinct. It's something that allows for collectivization. You have to believe to some extent that other people feel the same way that you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother talking to them, right?
Right.
Because if you can't
Yeah.
even
I
be
just
sure
like
you're talking about the same
I
thing.
just like there's some people, like, I just feel like, especially in these times, like, it's just we're kind of drifting apart, and it's just like I kind of want to bring them back in and kind of give them little tidbits of information so we can have some sort of relationship.
It's good to want the best for them. It's
Yeah.
fine to have a relationship, but you have to know where to draw the line, and that line is where it's starting to have a negative effect on you. Because you don't
Yeah.
love them to the point where you're willing to destroy yourself in the process of caring for them, right? You
Right.
wanna say, "Okay, well, still good intentions, you don't feel the same way about me as about what's going on, fine, whatever," There's nowhere it's written you have to agree on everything, but agree that the point of a family or friends or whoever you're talking about or people you
Yeah. Yeah.
communicate with, the point of that is positive.
Hopefully they get some enlightenment or get some new information that they
It's
won't
good to have
act.
the intent. Okay, here's the difference. It's good to have a good intention for other people. It's like, oh, sure, you want to love them as much as possible, but you don't want to make the love contingent on them fulfilling your expectations because they never will. They'll always fall short. And you don't want to feel like you love them less because they let you down. You just want your love to be transcendent and always there and basically unconditional. And the only way
Right.
to have something approaching unconditional love in that type of circumstance most of the time is to have a boundary and just say, love you, but I also love myself here. And it's
Right.
just like, even if you like, you don't have to understand, but I'm telling you, and please respect me as a person. And if you don't, you're not respecting me as a person because it's my boundary. Like, either I don't want to talk about this or whatever it is that you have to do, because you'll know. You have to sort of
Mhm.
listen to yourself and the inner voice of like, I'm not comfortable with this. Why am I not comfortable with this? And just sort of do your best to convey it.
Right. Mhm.
But you always
Makes
have to
sense.
start with the intention, right? It's like there's no cause in the universe that should interrupt your own inner peace, because that's your sanctuary.
Right.
Everything you do is from the basis of yourself, and if you're not internally self-contented and accepting of your own flaws, this is very important. Acceptance of one's
Mhm.
own limitations, right? And this is Claire's
Yeah.
problem. She doesn't spend that time.
Mhm.
It's a lot about just getting in touch with your feelings, right? Because if there's a persistent bad feeling, that's your body's way of telling you that something's not right.
Right.
And if you don't acknowledge that something's not right, well, you're never going to fix it.
Mhm.
Thanks for
Wow, that's
talking
really
to me. That was
insightful.
fun.
You know, that's probably like this is like way better than a therapist, because a therapist would just probably just start judging me right away. Like, oh, are you one of those right wing Nazi bigots? Oh, like, oh God, you know. But yeah, you don't believe that the virus is bad? Oh, we'll put you on some drugs. It's always just like, oh yeah, we'll put you on some drugs so we can seduce you or subdue you and make you like a passive slave. I was just like, I'm not taking any like medication whatsoever. I promise that to myself. Even when I was like depressed, I was like, I'm not taking any medication. I'm gonna get through this. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool, but yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's
I
good. I mean,
promise.
you just want to you want to amplify that, right? It's like, well, what's the root
Mhm.
of that? It's your own self-preservation, and that's fucking awesome. And
Yeah,
maybe your like monkey mind, like your less evolved aspects of your mind doesn't always interpret it right on the first try, but you don't have to be right on the first try. You just have to be willing to be like, okay, I that wasn't what I thought it would be. I gotta try something else. And
yeah,
just be willing to learn, and like it's a lifestyle of learning. Like I'm still learning all the time, and it's like it's so much fun.
hmm
So
yeah,
fucking fun because like I'm not bogged down by all this shit. And you
yeah.
don't have to be. You don't have to be. You can be, I don't want to say free, but you can be taking more
You
control over your experience.
right. Where you don't have to feel obliged to do things that are self-harming to you.
You have to
Like you
be
don't have
able
to.
to balance your duties, right? So you have a duty
Hmm
to your friends and family, and you have to answer
hmm
the question, well, how do I make this duty without, because there's no rule that says you can't enjoy duties. I enjoy duties all the time, but they're nonetheless duties, right? So you have to see it as
hmm
a duty and then say expectations, right? Like there's no reason that necessarily everybody's going to feel the same way as you or even remotely close to it. Like most people just have a pretty superficial experience of life. It's like most people are
hmm
more like Claire than me in the sense that they care about stuff like what everybody else thinks about them
hmm
and getting likes on Facebook
Yeah,
and whatever, keeping up with the Joneses and you know, buying.
yeah. Or curtailing your message to make it digestible. Uh, you
There's
know,
no
like
message to curtail.
yeah,
Not everybody has that, and it's just like you got to really just take responsibility and accept them for what they are, not what you wish they were. Because
right.
you can't bully them into changing. You can't convince them to change. All you can do is say, "Well, I'm going to be a good example," and then eventually it'll click in for them.
Right.
It's just that's really all there is to it, and it's like the only way to keep going and have the strength to keep going is to be convinced, not to have any doubt. Because the doubt is
Yeah.
like, you know, the princess and the pea.
Uh, maybe I've heard
You
it
don't know that
once.
story?
Princess and the Pea.
Yeah, she was a princess, and then there was like a pea under like 100 mattresses, and she was sleeping on it, and she was so delicate that she could sense the pee.
Maybe I've heard it once. Yeah.
It's a child's story. I don't even remember where I heard it or whatever, but
Okay.
anyway, that's what doubt is like. Doubt, no
Mhm.
matter how small, will be uncomfortable.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll wrap it up here, and great
Oh, I'm
chat.
sorry.
Hope
Are
that
we
you-
still live?
Yeah, we are. It's all good. I mean, I enjoy the
shit.
combo, but I'm actually like my vocal cords are actually just getting tired at this point. But I really enjoyed it, and
Understood.
I could do this kind of conversation basically as long as it stays on the topic of, you know, an actual productive conversation about furthering understanding of various topics. You know, I have a lot of energy to just keep going, because if it's
Okay.
beneficial for someone else, like for someone like me, that's what makes me happy, is to see other people have a benefit and have a personal growth experience. Because like, what else am I going to do? You know, it's not boredom.
Yeah.
It's just like, of all the stuff I could do to amuse myself, you know, seeing somebody
Yeah.
have a profound personal change is cool, because it's almost like you get to, you know, be part of this great story, like a light bulb being turned on. Better than
Mhm.
a movie most of the time. Way better.
Yeah. I hope everyone enjoyed the mini therapy session there.
This is not medical advice. Disclaimer. This is not medical advice.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next Sunday, if not sooner. Take care, John, and thanks everyone else who joined. Really appreciated the participation and the good faith efforts to further the various conversations. Take care, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so to say, a worthless opinion of.
It's so important that she can't be told, she won't be told that it's wrong. And
bringing it back to Church of Entropy and her attack dog Gandalf the White.
Why don't you learn to shut up and fuck your goddamn logic?
They control the media, and the media is capable of making the sheeple believe in anything.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, we've had these streams, and I've been doing with Church of Entropy, and she's been bringing on new people, and like we did those streams on like stream etiquette. We walk through like the technology.
I have like very strongly negative opinions of the kind of Brundle clique.
Is she trying to garner herself cult prestige by associating herself with a retard?